Tonight, it's the final round of the Indy Elite Series, and we're going to be kicking it off with the RaceSpotTV 400 here at Pocono. It's the final race. Tim Holgate has the championship wrapped up, but he's going for the RaceSpotTV Triple Crown here, and if he's able to achieve it, he'd be the first driver in iRacing IndyCar Series history to win the Triple Crown. Randy Chineth, Rachel Whiteford, and Hugo Louise going to be bringing you all the action today in the booth. We'll be back shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive. As qualifying is currently starting to get wrapped up here for your RaceSpotTV 400 here at Pocono in the final round of your Indy Elite Series. Randy Chineth and Rachel Whiteford here. And Rachel, Tim Holgate's in it already for the championship. That's already said and done. There's no way he can lose it here tonight. But he's in it for the Triple Crown here at Pocono. The Triple Crown obviously being Pocono, Auto Club, and Indianapolis. He won the first two. If he wins this one, the first driver in iRacing IndyCar history to get that under the belt.
Is this real life, Randy? Is this just fantasy? I think we're caught in a Tim Holgate landslide right now. He is dominating this series. Great performance from him, and looking forward to seeing if he can do it here again today. Chris Merritt, though, he's faster at the moment, on pole position provisionally, as we have 2 minutes remaining on that qualifying clock. We'll have to see who has set what laps. Till Holgate, well, if we look at him, he has got 2 laps in the book. Chris Merritt, he has got 1, so he's got 1 to go. Time for him to open his eyes and look up to the skies and see if he can improve.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, but I think if you're Christopher DeMeritt right now, you might as well just keep what you got here. You already got the pole. Tim Holgate, well, unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to run any more laps today. But Tim Holgate, well, he's just been a good boy all season long, and he's hoping that Pocono ends up loving him today. Qualifying only about another minute and a half or so left. All your drivers have currently logged laps here, Rachel, so your grid is pretty much set, I think, at this point. Looking up and down the field, it is a pretty close field. 7/10 of a second is about the vast majority of your field from 1st to 12th. A little bit more of a drop-off to Robert Gortz and Michael Peters, your final 2 runners, though.
It certainly is, and well, if you've done a bit of qualifying, it's time to carry on because nothing really matters. You've got to get back on that grid and you've got to go forwards. That's all you've got. We've got 150 laps here tonight. It's going to be a long one, but it's also going to be a tough one. Pocono, they call it the tricky triangle for a reason.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, 3 separate corners here at Pocono. First one modeled after Trent, New Jersey. Second one modeled after Indianapolis, and then that turn 3 modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. And, you know, that's the big talking point here at Pocono, because you talk about the Triple Crown here tonight, and, you know, you have the other 2 races, they're arguably relatively easy tracks. Indianapolis, relatively straightforward. Auto Club, same story. But here, the setup really is a lot more complicated with having 3 different corners, and then all three different link straightaways. A little bit harder to get that card out.
It certainly is, and of course this car can be really a handful in this sort of race conditions. It really takes a lot of work to get it right in the right sort of position, and you know, it's sometimes you could say it's guaranteed to blow your mind. Dynamite the laser beam. This thing is incredible. It can go wrong, but when it goes wrong bad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think tonight, Rachel, we're going to be having ourselves a real good time. And I mean, I feel alive. I don't know, you and the world might just turn it inside out. So, but getting ready to get underway here tonight. So let's go to your starting grid for your final round of your Indy Elite Series here at Pocono. Christopher Demerit, we know he's fast. He's been fast all season, and well, he's the one who proved you cannot pit the wrong way at Texas. He comes away with the pole tonight with a 41.286. Tim Holgate, already your Indy Elite Series champion. Master of strategy on these races. He's going to be rolling off in second, about 0.07 of a second off of Christopher Demerit. Second row, Mark Aurelio Brazil and Niles Anders. Tim Doyle and Joe Flanagan, 5th and 6th. Joe Branch and Andrew Kinsella. Joe Branch is having a competitive season, but unfortunately for him, Tim Holgate able to run away with it. Andrew Kinsella, he's run well all season as well. Bradley Walters and Nathan Bookbinder roll off 9th and 10th. Danley Inch and Tim Miller. Tim is a driver who earlier today at Milwaukee in the Classic IndyCar Series didn't qualify well, managed to come home with a strong top 5 finish. And, you know, that's something we expect from Tim Miller. Never qualifies well, always gets himself to the front. Then your last qualifiers tonight, Robert Gortz and Michael Peters rolling off 13th and 14th. Then Paul Jennings, again, taking that provisional as we've come to expect. And 15th, Ryan Heater not running a time as well. Exciting field here, Rachel. A lot of names up and down it. It really, you know, you really have to say right now, it's all eyes on Tim Holgate, seeing if he can sweep that Triple Crown today.
Absolutely, it's no time for losers, Randy, of course, because, well, Tim Holgate, he's the champion of this series, and it's looking like an incredible run for him. He wants to try and cap this one off with a definite finale on this one, so we'll have to look forward to seeing what he can do. But as it stands, you know, it's been no better roses for him this season. It's been really tough. It's been no pleasure cruise. He has to make sure he gets this one together. He's had a couple of rough rounds, so it's not over yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As right now, gridding is currently taking place, and we're waiting on that iRacing American Childhood Cancer Organization safety car to roll off, and that is what it has done. So tonight, it's going to be an exciting one. A lot of the biggest names have turned up, and it's a relatively small field, but it is a field of quality. So if you wanted to come in, if you wanted to have a strong season here, well, this point in the season, too late, your time has come, but you want to have a good race to here though, Rachel.
Absolutely. I mean, you say black, I say white, you say black, I say white. It's one of these situations where it's going to be one of two ways. It's either going to be a really, really good race and you get the strategy right and everything goes in exactly the right sort of direction, but it's going to be tough because at the same time, yeah, you've paid your dues time after time, but you know, sometimes this can just go wrong. Strategy can catch you wrong, a caution can catch you wrong, but you just got to make sure you're in the right sort of position and you'll keep on fighting to the end.
Absolutely right. And as they work themselves now in the quarter number 2, live timing currently up right now. You go to RaceSpot.tv /timing to get all of that and all of your needs there. So What do you think we're going to expect out of this race, Rachel? I mean, Christopher Demerit, he's shown that he's fast on these big ovals if he's in clean air, but in several of the races, if he gets in dirty air, he tends to struggle.
Well, I think, you know, with Chris Demerit here, of course, there's definitely a pressure pushing down on Holgate. It's pushing down on him, no man to ask for, and, you know, under pressure, it burns a building down, Randy. It splits the family in two, puts people on streets. He has to make sure he gets this one right, of course. He's on the outside for this start. We know how wide these things can spread out. This could be a very, very broad one. And, you know, it could be that they end up 4 wide into turn 1 with him screaming, "Let me out."
Absolutely right, as they work themselves now through corner number 3. Waiting for that pace car to come off and down to pit road, and there it goes. Christopher Demerit in command of the field, and he's got the good jump, and Tim Holgate not really letting him get away. You're getting the typical Pocono race star here, fanning out 2 wide, 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide towards the back. For the most part, everyone's been remaining calm. They know it's a long 150-lap race here today. A lot of miles have to go. You don't want to be the one who goes out into corner number 1 here, and so far, everyone's clean. Cleanest start we've had in this series in a while.
Yeah, it certainly is. Good run there, but look at Marco Brazil there. He's having a look at Tim Holgate. He wants to get involved in this one. He wants to try and find some sort of way past. I don't think he can find his way out there right now, but he's having a look. But he's probably just losing a place here. Now as Anders coming on strong at this stage. That higher line in turn 3, Randy, can be an advantage for the run onto the front straight.
That really can. Towards the back of the field, though, drivers fanning out 3 wide. We have Tim Miller, Paul Jennings, and Robert Gortz all involved in this. Paul Jennings going to the inside. Looks like he's going to hop himself up 2 positions in the span of this long front straightaway here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. In front of them, though, Michael Peters, Nathan Bookbinder, Danley Inch, and Paul Jennings is someone we know who's fast in this series, and he never seems to like to qualify, always likes it. But up front, Chris Demerit and Tim Holgate, they just run line of stern right now. Tim Holgate probably looking to just sit behind Chris and really conserve fuel. Looking in the back, though, Joe Flanagan coming under attack from Mr. Joe Branch as they work themselves into corner number 3. And Joe, he was one of the drivers who was looking strong in this championship, but missing a couple rounds and having a couple races not quite go his way, got taken out of it. I think it'd be very nice, though, for Branch if he could find a way to maybe steal this Triple Crown away from Tim Holgate and not let him get that notch on his belt at least.
He'd certainly like that, Randy. Keep an eye here, of course, with Niles Anders and Joe Flanagan there, as well as Tim Doyle, in fact, in front of those guys. They were having a bit of a good scrap early on in this one, but they've single filed out now. Let's not forget, this is Tim Holgate's ballpark here, Randy. This is exactly what he is good at. He's up front there. He's, running behind first place, which is exactly where he wants to be. He can save fuel here, which is Tim Holgate's playbook by the numbers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Christopher Demerit, he sees that and he can know that. And of course, oftentimes, it's the terror of knowing they can tear you apart as a driver. Knowing that that person behind you, yeah, he's not trying to be aggressive. He's not trying to push and get by. But knowing that he's just going to sit there and attempt to out-strategy you. And it's so difficult in these cars to out-strategize Mr. Tim Holgate. He's so strong. He's so smart. And you know, even if he's not the fastest driver week in and win out, he's always one who you have to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly is, and you can sit on a fence, but it's never going to work for you, of course, and you've just got to make sure you try and find out what you can do with this one. These guys have to try and find a solution to this. It's going to be a really tough race. We do expect fuel to be a major factor, and look who's sitting in second, you know? There's no real question about this one. Mr. Perfect is sitting in second. Marco Brazil, he's dropped back a lot already. He's nearly a second back from Tim Holgate. As Tim Doyle also about the same distance back. So your frontier leader is really pulling away. Demerit and Holgate drafting hard there. But some good fighting in his mid-pack. We'll see as these tyres drop off around the next 5 laps or so, really. You'll see these cars start to spread out a lot. And this pack we had of Anders, Doyle, Branch, and Flanagan, they've already started to spread out. So this race does, if it can get off to a good start like it has a real tendency to stay green. So these guys are really going to have to think about what field mode they're in, how this car is handling over a total run, and how they're going to run the strategy. Are they going to go back to front, front to back? Are they going to, try and pit early and get off sequence? It's going to be a real tough one. But looking at Michael Peters, the 3 car, he is having being had looked at by the car there of Robert Gortz, I believe that is. He's,
Tim Miller.
Tim Miller, sorry, yeah, he's gotten past him before, but Tim Miller looking to come back up the inside here, heading towards turn 1. Will he have the inside? He does. Can he make the pass complete, though? They're going to sit too wide for a second. He's feeling the pressure there. Can he get clear? He's not quite clear, and just about is clear now.
Yeah, he's got it cleared going into corner number 2. And Tim Miller, actually, that last lap, he did put himself in that 13th position, so it's not going to officially count as a pass this time by, but he did move himself up 2 positions here. Now Tim Miller setting his sights on Nathan Bookbinder, and Tim's looking awfully quick in these early stages of this race, and you have to say he's basically looking at Nathan and he's just thinking to himself, are you ready? Are you ready for this? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat?
Absolutely, Randy. And that's one of the things he needs to think about. And I mean, if I'm Chris Demerit right now, I mean, I want to break free. I want to break free from Tim Holgate's grasp there, and he has to know that. And I mean, God knows he really wants to get free of Tim Holgate. It just has to get out of the way. This is someone you have to shake, get him beyond draft range, and you need to make sure you're actually out of his way. Because if this guy sticks in his coattails, well, Holgate's going to win this race.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the way, though, that Tim Miller has pulled away from that group behind that he just got himself by. Just basically running away from them, saying, goodbye, everybody, I've got to go. As looking back up front, like you said, Holgate just saving gas. Marco Aurelio Brazil, he's brought that gap down just a little bit, I think. Not a lot, but it has come down just a little bit. And behind, Tim Doyle, another one of the best, is just out there. Same story, just saving fuel. Paul Jennings and Danley Inch, that's another close battle, but I think Paul Jennings, I mean, he's already gotten by on this lap, and he's going to have to say, I have to go. Paul Jennings, he does this almost every race. He just qualifies towards the back, and he just starts putting everyone down laps, and if they feel bad, he basically says, sorry, didn't mean to make you cry.
Yeah, certainly, and if you're sitting back there, I mean, what the hell are we fighting for? And it's the same sort of situation of we work together, you want to try and get further towards the front, and sitting back here, it's like, here we stand or here we fall. History won't care at all because you're not the winner. So you need to try and get yourself towards the front, work with people around you, get yourself towards the front of this race. You can be a factor.
Absolutely right, as Paul Jennings works himself into corner number 2, and look at the gap he's pulled on Danley Inch already, setting his sights now on Mr. Bradley Walters. Bradley, someone always seems to be fighting for top 5, but I have to say, for Paul Jennings, when he gets to him, I think it's going to be pretty easy come, pretty easy go.
Certainly, and it's going to be one of these races where we have to try and focus on what these guys can do, and they are trying to get into position here where they can push forwards. As it stands, though, like I say, everyone's spread out here. They're in no real position to actually contend with each other, really. Like I said, even the closest thing we had, which was Holgate and Demerit, is spread out now. So it's, he's really he's pulled himself clear of the shadow of the mushroom cloud there. He's gotten a bit of a break on Holgate. Marco Brazil is catching up now, so this is, I guess, the terror of knowing what it's like to be in first place.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. Right now, the way Marco Aurelio Brazil closing up on the back of Holgate, he's like a shooting star leaping through the sky, closing on this gap to your top 2. But Christopher Demerit, he's really been able to stretch out this lead this past couple laps, so definitely unfortunate there for Holgate, who wants this Triple Crown bad.
Oh, he certainly is, and I'm sure he'll keep on fighting to the end, Randy. It's not exactly anything for points, of course. He has won the championship, but you could say he is the champion. But at the same time, he wants to have the reward, personally, shall we say, that in the knowledge that he has done it, and he's had mistakes. He's made a few. He's had a share of sand kicks in his face in terms of racecraft, but at the same time, he wants to put his stamp on this series and show he is the champion, and he literally deserves every moment of this.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's Tim Holgate, and he's paid his dues time after time. So, it really makes sense that he wants this bad. But he's fallen off the back of Mr. Christopher Demerit early, and it's been about a tenth and a half every single lap or so. He's starting to fall into the clutches of Mr. Marco Aurelio Brazil here as they work themselves through turn number 3 for the 12th time, quickly closing in on that 10% mark, and we've been green all the way. And as I say that, the curse of the commentator comes out, and who is that? Oh, that's a big wreck. Michael Peters in turn number 3, stuck up in the fence.
Oh, he is, Randy, right in that catch fence. That is absolutely huge. Gonna get a replay up for you right now. We'll see what's happened. He was running into turn 3, no major issues you'll see here on the screen. And slow into turn 3 for some reason, and from behind, I think
Jennings got into him.
Yeah, it's Jennings. Was flying in, nails that car, and what a way to tear it up. A hard life there for Michael Peters.
Not sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure what Peters was doing there. I mean, he was 20 miles per hour off the pace from Paul Jennings.
Oh,
I'm not
Randy,
sure what was
I
wrong
think
with the car.
if you listen to that car, he's clipped his pit limiter. I think he's clipped his pit limiter on there, and that's what's killed the speed for him. Oh, terrible.
Well, I mean, he was down to like 187 in turn 2 as well. I'm not sure what was up with Michael. Maybe he loaded the wrong setup, but if you look, I mean, he was well on the throttle even coming out of corner number 2, so I'm not sure. But, I mean, regardless, another one bites the dust here.
Surprised, though, that he didn't miss it. Paul Jennings should have missed that car, no problem whatsoever. The closing speed wasn't that big.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's very true, but I mean, still, just such a very strange incident for Michael Peters that he would be that far off the pace here in the early goings.
Yeah, certainly is, and well, you know, he wanted it all. He couldn't quite have it, not the way he wanted that one to go. But pain is, as we know with racing, so close to pleasure.
Basically, your entire field coming down pit road here for your first round of pit stops in your final round of the IndyCar Elite Series, and have to say this is pretty much expected. 14-lap run, everyone needs to come down and get some fresh rubber, and most importantly, fill up with some Sunoco race fuel. Is everyone starting to hit the box, and is everyone able to get into their boxes cleanly? It looks like most of the front runners able to get in there, but not quite. Let's see who's able to get away first. Actually, Holgate dropped off the jacks first, but Marco Aurelio Brazil, did he get your lead?
It's close. Randy will have to take a look up here at the front. Marco Brazil is out front. Yeah, it's Marco Brazil. It's Chris Demerit. It looks like Tim Holgate in third now. So it's looks like a big pit stop by Marco Brazil. If in fact he did beat him off the line, could have been slightly. I'm looking at his pit stop here, Randy. I'm not sure how he got in so well. He comes in and very early. He's up on the jack stand. You can see that much already, and he just goes through.
Yeah, I mean, very well done there by Marco, and we're getting word that it was a 6.7 second stop there for Marco to be able to jump there. Christopher Demerit 7.5, so maybe somewhat, if I could speak,
timing coming off pit road, Randy, is so close.
So tight, yeah. Thousandths of a second there.
Big.
We don't actually get the timing of when they come off pit road, but we can just see the
kind of magic, that pit stop. That was spectacular.
Yeah. All you can say is that Marco Aurelio Brazil from pit road there, he was the champion.
Absolutely. What a way to break free from pit road. Just fantastic running off there. Can't believe he managed to go off there that quickly. And I mean, that's how you do a pit stop. You keep on fighting till the end, because you can beat the leader off pit road like that, and it can be done. I mean, consider that a challenge before the whole field, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, but still, caution lights still remain on the pace car here as they work themselves down now this long front straightaway. Again, under yellow flag. This will be starting lap number 15. The lights are going to go out this time, so that's definitely good for us going back to green flag racing here. And it is going to be a long race here, Rachel. We estimated about 90 minutes, and if it stayed green, I think more realistically, we're looking somewhere in the realm of about 2 hours.
Absolutely. 2 hours would be a very long time, but it's what we're expecting to see for this one if we get a couple of cautions here. So don't lose your head. You know, there's time to go in this one, but at the same time, who wants to live forever? Good, exciting. Let's make this a fun one. But these guys, they need to make sure they really focus on this one. Don't make any big mistakes now, of course. This has pulled the field back in again. It had spread out a little bit. But, you know, you don't want to have a huge problem with this one. You want to make sure you're still in this race. Marco Brazil, though, didn't quite seem to have the pace at the end of that first run. Could see Demerit trying to make a good start here, but this will change the dynamic.
I mean, you're absolutely right here. But, I mean, Marco Aurelio Brazil jumping himself up 2 spots in a single pit stop there. Going to have him floating around in ecstasy, and, you know, he's going to want no one to stop him here, Rachel, as they work themselves into 2. And what do you think's going to happen here? Holgate and Demerit, they're running good up towards the front, but I think after seeing Marco come on towards about the middle point of that run and then jumping into the pits, I think Demerit and Holgate have to be aggressive.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen Marco Brazil all season. One man, one goal, one mission. He's been really putting his heart into getting out there. He's been trying to race as hard as he can, and this could be his chance to do it. This could be his opportunity, and you know, he really has to push here, keep on fighting to the end.
Working themselves off of corner number 3 right now, and Marco Aurelio Brazil shortly will be in command of your field, waiting for, again, that American Childhood Cancer Organization pace car to come down the pit road, and here it comes, and Marco Aurelio Brazil, he gets the jump, and everyone's starting to run away as they work themselves down your long front straightaway. Tim Holgate already looking to make moves, ducking down to the inside of Mr. Christopher Demerit, going into corner number 1, and he's there. Will he be able to get the run, though? Christopher Demerit defending on that high line. This is for position number 2, and Holgate not able to maintain the momentum. Christopher gets the run on the high side. Holgate, he's going to have to drop in single file.
Yeah, he certainly is, and that was a close one. Definitely getting his heart on his sleeve there, Randy. Pushing that car as hard as he could. Round the outside in 1. Holding that position was one real decision to make himself keep his position in this race. A really important one for him as well, and a good one but slow through the middle of turn number 3 there as a run for Tim Holgate. Right on the back there of Chris Demerit. He might have the opportunity to have another look here into turn 1, but look at the draft braking already by Marco Brazil. He wants to get this one done clean. He wants to manage to break through this race. He doesn't want these guys to come with him.
Christopher Demerit still trying to defend, and look at the run that Holgate gets coming off of corner number 2. He's like a race car, like Lady Godiva, passing by as they work themselves into corner number 2. Gonna have the inside line, and here through corner number 2, the inside is much more dominant, and Christopher Demerit has to give it up. No contest as they work themselves down to corner number 3. Holgate slots himself into the 2nd spot, and this is something we've seen out of Christopher Demerit in the past, Rachel. He can be dominant in clean air, but I think he really likes to trim that car out. Once he gets into the dirty air, though, look, I mean, he's lost two spots in the spacing of half a lap.
Yeah, he really has, and that's exactly
look at the run on the front straight he gets.
Oh, huge run there, and that really hurts him. And here comes Tim Doyle getting through there. He just makes that one look very easy. Oh, tight as there goes Demerit back through again.
These guys really slicing and dicing here as Niles Anders starts to throw his hat into the ring. Not quite 3 wide. I think Tim Doyle got lifted a bit out of it to make sure that didn't happen. And Niles Anders actually didn't run turn 2 very well there. And because of that, Tim Doyle had to stay way up high on the racetrack. Niles really ran the middle of the track there, not going down quite as low as he probably could have. And Tim Doyle through corner number 3 slots behind. Tim Holgate, though, he's got all sorts of pace on this new run. He's starting to reel in Marco Aurelio Brazil up ahead. Marco was a little quicker that last time by, but that gap remains at about 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think he wanted to keep himself in position earlier on. Still in contention, run a fuel race, but with Marco Brazil out front, I think he needs to try and push this one here, Andy. I'm going to try and break free of that dirty air behind him and try and make something happen here, of course. And, you know, God knows, the dirty air is atrocious. You have to break free of that. It's such a major problem for these cars. They really hate being back there. Look at there, Tim Doyle, the 11 car right to the back of Niles Anders, right under his gearbox. And that's going to be good for him. He'll get a really big run here if he can keep the speed up through turn number 3. And of course, he doesn't want to be living without him by his side there. He wants to make sure he's actually alongside, or at least getting past him with a run. Not going to have the chance here into turn 1.
Yeah, tight racing, but as always here at Pocono, it's a difficult place to pass at. Everyone works themselves in a corner number 1 single file. Robert Gortz goes to the high side, but Nathan Bookbinder basically able to really run away here. But Tim Holgate still setting his sights on Marco Aurelio Brazil out in front. He was 2/10 slower that last time as well. So Marco looking like he has some good pace in the clean air, but we've seen this happen before. Holgate can be very good, even in this dirty air, and he can be good late in the run. How will these people be able to maintain in the later stages of the run? Christopher Demerit, he's starting to close the gap. Looking back now, Tim Doyle has his hands full with Niles Anders, working themselves down into corner number 1. Niles basically is going to have the spot maintained, and he's even able to pull up to the high side before he turns in there. So Tim Doyle, basically, I think letting him have it there as Niles Anders works himself and moves himself up to that 4th position. Tim Doyle, though, he gets the run off of corner number 1, goes to the inside into corner number 2, should have it again. So these guys swapping spots back and forth.
Yeah, they certainly are, Randy. I think I've had a bit of a wall slap back in your field somewhere from one of these guys as someone came out of turn at number 1. I don't see anything, though, on the racetrack, so I think everyone got away with this one just now, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. It's one of the trickier parts in this track. You have to keep your eyes on a swivel through this one, but you push wide in turn 1, it will be your curtain call.
Absolutely right, and right now, Marco Aurelio Brazil, the gap came back down by about a 1/10.5 that last time by, and Tim Holgate has a run. So closing it still, they work themselves into corner number 2, and Marco, he definitely just wants to break free here, but Tim Holgate not letting him get away.
Certainly isn't. And Tim Holgate's still in a good position. This is where he was with Chris Demerit, of course, and he really wants to make sure that car stays in the draft. It's good for him to save fuel. It really lets him ride that wild wind. He doesn't have to get out there in the dirty air. He's in that nice pocket behind Marco Brazil. So even when he closes up here, we might see him not try and pass. But he might go for it. I might be going slightly mad, but I think he will stay in the draft and just dial the engine back a little bit, try and save something, and maybe wait for that breakthrough later on, Randy.
Absolutely right, as Tim Holgate. That gap's as close as it's been all race long, and you see Holgate swarming back and forth. I think he's maybe a little frustrated with the way Marco really defending with the draft. It's very unusual to see Tim Holgate swerving back and forth like that. And coming through corner number 3, I have to say, Tim Holgate, if he's able to get the run, I think he's going to come through on Marco like dynamite and a laser beam. But no, Marco gets a great run off of 3. Tim Holgate too far back to make a move.
Yeah, it certainly is. It could be the time to shine here for Tim Holgate. Will he try and make a pass on Marco Brazil? We'll have to see what he can do there. I mean, we believe, Randy, that he can do it, and call me a little optimistic, but I think he could go for this soon. Marco Brazil defending very aggressively here. Definitely trying to break that draft. It's not going to work when you're this close to the car. They're just going to follow you, and you end up with that conga snake on the racetrack that we see so much from IndyCar, but it's a valiant effort. It's a pretty useless one, but it's valiant, of course, and Tim Holgate definitely the faster car right now. That car is stuck there in that draft behind Marco Brazil. The dirtier in the corners, really hard to pass with, so he's got to keep on this one.
Now another battle forming up between your 53 and your 28. This is your battle, your Joes. Joe Flanagan and Joe Branch. Paul Jennings is involved with this one as well. They work themselves in corner number 3, and Joe Branch works himself to the inside of Mr. Flanagan as they work themselves through corner number 1. Are they able to maintain the pace, though? Is Branch able to get the run? We've seen people on that inside line really slow, not able to maintain the momentum, and it happens to Branch here, and because of that, I think Flanagan would probably get to the inside, but no, Paul Jennings able to keep him there, and Joe Branch able to finally get that move done. Here comes Paul Jennings now to the inside of Flanagan going into corner number 3. Joe's going to lose himself 2 spots in the space of a lap. If Paul can get the run up and off the corner, he gives Joe plenty of room, though. Well, what's it going to be at the line? Is Paul Jennings going to inherit that spot? Yes, he will. So Joe Flanagan goes down 2 spots in the realm of a lap, and look who's stalking behind. Bradley Walters smells blood in the water.
It certainly does, and I tell you what, Randy, it's a hard time, really, and a hard life for us commentators when we have 2 of our series sponsoring sponsored race cars.
Oh, Tim!
Fight, they're on track.
Holgate in the wall off of 2. Holgate spins around. History will not be made today.
Oh, this is awful, Randy. The car just gets loose there. Try and get your replay of what happens. Oh no, that's after he got in the wall. We'll need to see this one from the beginning.
This was Tim just going into corner number 2 here. Marco defending to that inside going into 2. And I have to say, Tim, I know you have the championship won. I know you don't need to win this race tonight to win it, but I know you wanted to. This was a little over aggressive and a little bit early to make a move like this. He tried to make it stick on the outside. I think he got a little bit of a tap, or he got loose from that number 812 car.
There was a little tap from Marco, a little wiggle from Marco Brazil as he entered. I think he wiggled the car a little bit, and it just clipped Holgate.
I think that's what happened there. I have a feeling that Marco, I mean, it was either Holgate got loose, or there was just barely a touch, and that upset Holgate's car and sent him off into the wall.
Oh, it certainly did, and that was a tricky one for him, of course, and I think for this race and this championship, that was his share of sand kicked to his face, Randy. That's not what he wanted to have happen, of course. And he is on track still. He will stay on the lead lap. Maybe get some damage repaired on that car. Some heavy damage to his front wing. That can be replaced, of course. The car will be running down a little power, I think. It could be good to carry on. But for Tim Holgate, it won't be enough. You know, he wanted to win this race.
Yeah, I mean, he really did. And, I mean, Holgate, he's going to have to leave everyone behind here and face the truth. So definitely unfortunate for Tim. I know he wanted to do it tonight, but still, that elusive IndyCar Triple Crown remains tonight unclenched. I don't think there's any way Tim can get that car repaired enough to remain competitive. He will have a lot of damage after that.
Yeah, he certainly will, and he must be absolutely gutted after that one. And it's not what he wanted to have happen, of course, and it's really a tough one for him to swallow, tough pill. He wants to be in a good place there. You know, he had his time, he had the power. we got to say, maybe he's yet to have his finest hour in IndyCar. This has definitely been a great season, but it's been typical Holgate. It's not necessarily been spectacular Holgate, it's just been typical Holgate. And I think, you know, the competition is starting to step up now towards the end of the season. We could see somebody else fighting to remain at the front, and somebody else who really wants to break free and show that that they too are champions.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. As right now, Tim Holgate getting repairs. He will be able to get a new front wing, and he will get some other repairs on that car. But you have to say, it's going to be pretty tough here as he's already rolling. So maybe the damage not too bad on that car just yet. But he has a good amount of side pod damage and probably some other damage as well.
It certainly could look like that, Randy. And yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one to this one. We'll see if he can pull his way through the field and just how much damage is on that car, of course. I think, though, we're going to head to a quick commercial break, and we'll see you when we go green.
Actually, just kidding. We're gonna go to an advert, but it's gonna be a different advert. Based in Indianapolis, iAdvanced Motorsports is one of the top simulator training facilities in motorsports. Built by IndyCar driver Darren Manning, the iAdvanced simulator features a 20-foot long and 8-foot tall screen that wraps 180 degrees around an actual Indy Lights tub. iAdvanced uses the latest hardware and software to be as close to the real thing as possible, along with the best pedal assembly, steering wheel, and force feedback money can buy, making it the perfect tool to effectively...
Oh, whoa. Randy, big change. It's been a wreck on track. Marco Brazil, he is out.
What?
Not even kidding. Marco Brazil has slowed down here, and into the back of him goes Niles Anders. He is out.
What has happened? I have to say it, Niles.
And a huge wreck. I don't understand what's happened. A massive wreck on going to green, and they've gone green.
Wow.
Not sure
I
how
have
to
to say it. Niles did that on purpose. There's no other way to say it. Niles was down the order. He wasn't one of your front runners coming to the restart. He just drove through the field, drove up, and took up Marco. There's no other way you can say it. Absolutely disgraceful coming from an admin.
I mean, I'm looking at this one, Randy. Marco was a bit further down in the order here. He wasn't at the front, and Niles just runs into the back of him as he slows down. It wasn't as though he was... I'm thoroughly confused.
Yes. Anyways, back to Green Flag Racing. Sorry for that, everybody, as right now Christopher Demerit has his fans absolutely full with Joe Branch as they come off of corner number 1, and Tim Doyle throwing his hat into this ring as well. 2 of our front runners get taken out, so now we have a little bit more exciting racing up in front as Doyle goes to the inside in corner number 2, through the Indianapolis-based corner, and now down onto the short chute in the corner number 3, and Tim Doyle has that spot as they work themselves through the Milwaukee-based corner, and I have to say, Tim Doyle has that spot. I don't think there's any way for him to be able to get this run going into 1, slicing and dicing it back as well.
Yeah, it certainly is, and well, it's Chris Demerit out front here, Randy. He's been the faster of the drivers up here right now, and I think, you know, if he can keep on fighting until the end of this one, that he will be the champion in this race. I think he has the chance here with Tim Holgate not a competition anymore. With, of course, Marco Brazil not in this competition anymore. This is his to lose.
Yeah, it really is. Demerit more or less just got handed this race if Tim Doyle and Joe Branch can't find something. Because, I mean, Demerit's pace has been dominant. I mean, he was up by about a 10th on qualifying from your second-place qualifier. And it was even more than that compared to third place. And that was Marco Aurelio Brazil. So if you go to your 4th-place qualifier, that's really what you have. That was Niles Anders, and he got taken out in that as well. So your second fastest qualifier to who's running is Mr. Tim Doyle, and that was about a 0.2 of a second gap.
It certainly was. It's now nearly half a second between Demerit and Tim Doyle. And, of course, that's 5th place, with 7th place behind him, chasing the first-place qualifier. I mean, look at what we've got here. We've got the 5th, the 7th, the 8th, the 6th place qualifier, 15th, 13th, 11th. 2nd place, 3rd place, and 4th place are all out, as you mentioned. This grid's been inverted. If Chris Demerit doesn't run away with this one like a giggling child at Christmas, I'll be thoroughly surprised.
You're absolutely right as they work themselves now down the front straightaway. Starting lap number 33 here, and Christopher Demerit, that gap is starting to just stretch. more and more. 0.5 of a second to second place, another 0.3 back, you go to third. Right now, watching a battle between the 53, Joe Flanagan on the outside, defending from Paul Jennings, and Joe got really close to that outside wall. Very lucky to not touch it. Andrew Kinsella just ahead of this battle, and Joe does have a bit of a run as they work themselves into corner number 2. Andrew able to hold on to that corner, and Joe, just the arrow push through turn 2, kind of hicks him up, not quite able to maintain the momentum off the corner. Paul Jennings behind, working through corner number 3, wants to get the run. We've seen this week in and week out from Paul. He'll come from the back of the field, work himself forward. I think he might have a very strong car here for this win, but Joe Flanagan to the inside into corner number 1 of Andrew Kinsella. Is he able to make it stick, Rachel?
He looks like he's going to try here, Randy, but look behind, and the man on the prowl is Paul Jennings. Those two killed their own run with that move, and here comes Jennings. Look at the body language of that car. He's going to go up alongside the car there of Joe Flanagan, and round the outside, he's going to try and go in the tunnel turn. Oh, contact, and he gets near the wall, but saves it. That was some serious staying power from Paul Jennings right there. That was fantastic, Randy.
Paul Jennings doing what Tim Holgate couldn't, and speaking of Tim Holgate, he is still out there on the racetrack, and let's see what kind of times he's been able to do out here on this race run with this damage. He's been running mid to high 42s. That last lap with a 42.9. Your leader, Christopher DeMerit, he just logged a 42.3. So 0.6 of a second difference for Holgate from before that incident to afterwards. Holgate's race, in terms of getting a win here, his race is done.
It certainly is, Randy. It's not what we'd like to see from him, of course. It's really a bad position to be in. A really, really tough one. I'm just finding out, actually, there might have been a black flag coming off pit road for Marco Brazil that time previously. So this is exactly what could have shaken that one up there with that, with him down the order there, Randy, when we had that incident.
Now we're watching the 56 as Bradley Walters going to work, trying to defend from Danley Inch behind, working themselves into corner number 1. These guys race with each other towards the tail end of your top 5 normally, and they're very experienced with one another. And notice who's back there just stalking. That's Mr. Tim Holgate. They've been running about the same pace as him, actually a little bit slower. So Tim has a bit of pace, but he has a bit of damage, and Tim will probably just be a little bit patient here, work himself forward, he wants to get to the checkered flag here. There might be a way that Tim can try to strategize himself to a win, depending on how cautions fly. And Tim's actually going to go to the high side off corner number 3 on Danley Inch, and he gets into that wall. Interesting to see how much damage he has from that, but he's able to make the move stick on Danley Inch, coming out of 3. Great move by Tim, driving that beat-up Indy car now down into corner number 1.
It certainly is, and this, you could say, is this is how to play the game here from Tim Holgate, as he really wants to get moving forwards in his field. And yeah, Tim Holgate, do not stop me now. He is going forwards, and he wants to get into the front of this one. And his timing is okay. The lap times are reasonable. I think with the strategy call here, Randy, he could do this one, or he could at least become a contender for the race win. This would definitely put out the fire on our naysaying about his damage, but we'll have to see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, that last lap was incredibly quick. He ran a 42.5. This time he drops off to a 43 flat. So I think Tim's problem right now is drag. I don't think he has any problem in terms of downforce. But notice that fast lap he ran, he was very close to the back of Danley Inch as well as Bradley Walters. They would have been pushing a big hole in the air for him going down the front straightaway. And, all the straightaways here, really. And because of that, I mean, let's just look at the top speed. He goes 214 to turn number 2. Bradley Walters, he's doing 219, 220. So that car, terminal, right now watching the 4 and the 91. This is Tim Miller and Nathan Bookbinder as they work themselves now into corner number 3. Tim Miller to the outside of Bookbinder, and Bookbinder, he kind of just goes to the high side, keels over, and lets him have it. He might be able to work the undercut, though, coming down your long front straightaway. He has the run, has the inside as they cross the stripe. Going into the corner, it's going to be Nathan's corner. Not much Miller can do about that.
Absolutely. That was a fight from the inside there for Nathan Bookbinder. A really good move to make. We saw an attempted pass back by Tim Miller in 1 there, but I think it was a bit late for him, as he's going to have to deal with those melancholy blues sitting back behind the number 4 driver. Well, he will have to see what he can do, but right now he's going to have to focus on being in the right place and try and making something happen here. Looking back up towards the gap, we're seeing at the front now, Randy, the 144 there, Chris DeMerit. He's pulled that gap up to 0.7 of a second here of Tim Doyle. Doyle is holding on well. He has got Joe Branch behind him, who's fighting for everything he has here. We're on the edges of our seats here, Randy. This one is definitely up.
Doyle doing a great job to defend from Joe Branch, and he's actually doing a very good job to keep Christopher Demeritte in sight, not letting him get away. I expected Demeritte to really be able to stretch an early gap here, given his early pace and given the fact that a lot of his contenders have been taken out of the mix here, but Tim Doyle showing why he's so strong in these cars. They work themselves into corner number 3, and look at the way Joe Branch understeers through the corner. Actually, strategy already starting, Rachel. Green flag stop for Joe Branch.
Certainly is. Joe Branch in that iAdvance Motorsports car heading onto pit road there as he will come down for service. That's Sunoco Race Fuel with 4 fresh Firestone tyres here, Randy, to come in and get that crew to see to that car. Green flag stops are so important. Coming off strategy here at Pocono can be absolutely critical. And, well, to these guys, their car, it's their best friend. They need to make sure it stays in good condition here, keep those tyres under the car, and keep themselves in a good position in terms of if they're in dirty air. They want to get out of that, of course, and we're going to see exactly what they could do here and see what they can actually pull off with this one. At the end of the race, it's a long way away.
Joe Branch exits the pit lane. He says, let me out here. I want to go to work with these new fresh 4 tires. And I think we're definitely seeing a strategy call here from Joe Branch. Not just in terms of tires. I think he's expecting this race to go green for a very long time from here. With the 3 or 4 people we've had drop out. Niles Anders, Marco Riller-Brazil, and Tim Holgate, who's actually worked himself up into 8th place, so he's not quite out of it yet. But with the thinned out field here, I think that Branch might be expecting this race to go green for quite a while. I'm not expecting Demeritte or Doyle to pit anytime soon. It was only about 10 laps that they ran from that last yellow flag. I mean, we went green on lap number 29, currently logging lap number 42, so only 13, and it's been a couple laps since Branch hit the pit lane, so I don't know. This is a pretty big risk for Branch. Do you think he's going to be able to pull it off?
Well, of course, these guys are limited to 80% fuel, Randy, so we've not really seen a full stint yet in terms of what a normal stint would be. Chris Demeritte, of course, he's your leader. Last time he pitted was, I believe, on lap 28. So we are just on that 15-lap mark for him. Is it time to pit yet? I'm not entirely sure, but looking at probably in the region of about 25 laps for him to get this. So could have been that Joe Branch did take some gamble, staying out of caution to gain some track position, but from 7th on the grid, he didn't move up that far. He is still in the lead lap, though, which is good for him. He's in a good position, so could have been just him trying to go off sequence here and run this back to front.
And unfortunately, in a lot of ways here, this does kind of take a lot. I mean, that was basically our main battle on the racetrack, and it gets kind of it just gets thinned out for us. All of these fights are basically single file at the moment, with a handful of 10th gaps all the way to everybody. It's actually Tim Holgate. Look at the way he's fighting his car coming off of corner number 2 that last time by. Holgate has his hands full. It's a miraculous save for him right there to be able to hold on to that.
Oh, it certainly is, and that's a huge, huge save there from him. Something we have seen before, but at the same time, that's a little too hard there. Pushing a little too much this stage of the race. Coming up on the, in 6 laps time now, we're heading up on that 50-lap point, so with 100 to go in this race, still 2/3 of the race really coming out in this one. A lot to play for, so these guys are going to have to make sure they stay in a good contention for this one. If you aren't in it, you cannot win it.
Absolutely right now as Christopher Demeritte maintains his 1-second lead over Tim Doyle, logging lap number 45 as they work themselves into corner number 3 here to start lap number 46. Let's run down your order just a little bit here. Get some words on your shakers up in this field. Right now, your biggest mover is Mr. Paul Jennings, up to 3rd place from 15th on the grid. 13th is, in 7th place is Robert Gord, started 13th.
Oh, Randy, sorry, Andrew Kinsella has come off turn 3. A big crash there for Andrew Kinsella. He lost the back end off turn number 3. We've seen it so many times. Actually, no, he hit the wall.
He hit the wall and got loose.
Big crash there. Yeah, okay, we can't get a replay of that. We've had some issues on that side, but Kinsella loses the back end off 3. The power slide car did just that, and pit road trip for Andrew Kinsella in the number 14 car. He was up in 4th place. Unfortunate end to his race.
And the question mark here, I think, is if you're Mr. Joe Branch, what do? You just hit the pit lane. Do you come down and pit again? Or do you just do you stay out and get the track position? But we'll find out. We're going to jump away for just a few moments' time, go to an advert. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're back here at Pocono for your final round of the Indy Elite Series and the final round of the Triple Crown. Talking about some strategy, Joe Branch, of course, he had just hit the pit lane. He stayed out. He is your race leader. Christopher Demerit second, Tim Doyle in third. That's how they'll line up. Lights on the pace car getting ready to go out this time by, and we've looked at it while we were away. We looked at that incident that happened under yellow, and basically everyone in the commentary booth, we basically all remain speechless. So not really much we can add about that. But Rachel, lights are out on the pace car. Strategy's starting to take play here. Who do you think is going to be strong? Is it going to be Joe Branch coming down a little bit early, getting himself that track position, inheriting the lead? Or will it be Christopher Demerit, Tim Doyle, and Paul Jennings coming down under that yellow?
Of course, it's going to be an interesting one here, Randy, but these guys have to have one vision for this race, and they have to push hard. Can Joe Branch stay out ahead of Chris Demerit? We'll have to find out, but as it stands, Chris Demerit's been the dominant car so far. Of course, he's been the one car to take this one to Tim Holgate. Holgate back up to 6th place here, so he could be in some sort of position to contend. Some side pod damage on that car, but should anything happen to anybody else, he will be in a position fuel-wise. If he could pull off a heroic strategy here, well, this could be his chance, and could be his curtain call.
Absolutely right, and working themselves now down about midway through this final pace lap here, and we're closing in on the 1/3 mark here. We're going to be about 26 laps out away from the halfway point, and we've had a decent amount of yellows. I believe this is yellow number 2 or 3 we've had tonight. Important note for Tim Holgate, this may have been good for him. Likely he could have been able to get some more repairs there on pit road as they work themselves now towards corner number 3, and here shortly Joe Branch will be in command of the field once that pace car comes down onto pit road.
Tricky thing here, Randy, though, don't forget, of course, that pace car pulls off and the green flag comes out very, very quickly here, so that's something to keep an eye on. These guys are pretty much going as soon as that pace car pulls down, so I have to keep an eye on what Branch can do.
Absolutely right, it's Joe Branch. You see, here in IndyCar rules, you cannot pass to the inside, but you can pass along the outside. That's why you see everybody defending that outside line as hard as they can. And Joe Branch, like you said, Rachel, goes very early. There's a man in the back making moves, and I have to say, that's the Pocono cockpit racing car of Tim Holgate making the move on Bradley Walters, trying to make it stick down into corner number 1. We know that number 06 machine is struggling for top end. He needs to get this move done early if he can. He needs to try to stay tucked in behind someone quick, someone like Brad Walters, someone like Paul Jennings if he can. Not able to make the move stick yet, though, and he's starting to come under attack and looking back out front. Joe Branch has his hands full of Tim Doyle and Christopher Demerit as those two go too wide through number 2 into corner number 3. Joe to the inside, Chris to the high line, Doyle to the low line. Doyle making the pass on Christopher Demerit, coming off of corner number 3, and he's going to have the draft from Joe Branch. This is probably some team play coming into effect. Joe Branch picking who he wants to be able to get behind him. Gave the draft to Tim Doyle going into 1. Doyle up to 2nd place.
Absolutely, that was definitely Tim Doyle saying, now I'm here, you have to keep an eye on me. But he slaps the wall, I think, as that was nearly Tim Doyle having a big, big error there coming to the corner. In fact, I think he did. He lost momentum there, so we'll see how that's hurt him. It's got past there for Demerit. That's exactly what he needed to have happen, of course. And
Doyle's got the run.
Oh, yeah.
Here comes Doyle again, down to the inside for corner number 3. These guys swapping positions back and forth, and look who's working his way up through the field. In the 5th spot is Tim Holgate. He may have gotten himself some good and some important repairs onto that car during that yellow flag, but Doyle not able to hold on to that position. Demerit holds on to the 2nd as they work into 1. Demerit, I think, was a little worried about Doyle throwing it up the inside into 1. He kind of ran a pretty wide entry, but ended up getting it down very low towards the end of the corner. Because of that, he'll give himself a good run, and he actually has a good amount of speed on Joe Branch. They worked themselves into 2, able to close that gap up. Paul Jennings also very close to the back of Tim Doyle. They worked themselves through corner number 2. This is starting to become a 3-car, almost even a 4-car scrap for your lead.
I could say it's a 5-car fight here, Randy. They're all in good company in this one, but you've got to be very, very careful because Tim Holgate's lurking in the wings here. He's in good... Well, he's not dropped back from the leader here so far, we've seen. He's in 42.3s at the moment. Joe Branch running 42.1s, so he is in the ballpark. This one is Doyle and Demerit side by side once again. And we'll have to see what these guys can do. It's a slow one again. We have to spread out there. As the Demerit gets tight and nearly has to pull down into Doyle. They keep that one going, though. They're not really too late for that one, but they're keeping it in one place. But here comes Jennings.
Paul Jennings looking strong off corner number 2, but we've seen through turn number 2, normally in that corner it's the inside that reigns supreme, but people in that inside line, they've been struggling to maintain the momentum off the corner. He's able to hold the inside through corner number 3 though, but again, just not able to hold the speed. Tim Holgate has since fallen off the back of his gap though. He just lost 0.3 of a second since he lost that draft, and because of that, we can expect him to start falling like a rock. Paul Jennings though, to the high line through corner number 1, he's going to try to get the crut back on Demeritte though, and look at the way he's able to close coming off the corner as he comes now from the mid corner into corner number 2. Will he be able to get there? Ducks to the inside, but no, not able to get there just yet. Actually, yes, he is. Jennings, he threw it in aggressively. I think Demeritte decided that discretion was the better part of valor. That's the biggest lift we've seen from anyone going into corner number 2. He kind of let Paul have it, as right now still going through the back. Tim Holgate has his hands full with who is that down on the inside? The car to the inside. Joe Flanagan.
It is. That's the RaceSpotTV car of Joe Flanagan there. He's getting involved in this one, going after your championship winner, of course. As, of course, we'll see if another one can bite the dust here to Paul Jennings. Flanagan's charge here towards the front as he does try to collect clear. Is he clear? He's not quite clear there. On the outside, Tim Holgate will pull back again with the outside run, providing just so much more momentum there, Randy. And we'll see if he can make a late move in turn number 2. Is he going to come soon? He will get through. Yes, he does it just there. And he's through. Staying power definitely in sight here for Joe Flanagan.
Yeah, back out toward the front though. Joe Branch doing a good job to maintain the gap on Tim Doyle. Jennings and Demeritte, they continue to run 3rd and 4th. And Holgate, is he going to be able to get a run here? Because we know that Holgate needs a draft. So, I mean, what do you do if you're Holgate? Even if you're faster than that car of Joe Flanagan, it's probably better for you to just sit behind him anyways and save gas, because you're not going to be able to run away from him. You simply don't have the top end. You don't have the speed. So you need to hope that Joe Flanagan can get quick and be quick. What Holgate really needs here is he needs another yellow, and he needs to be able to get gridded behind someone like Demeritte, Jennings, Doyle, or Branch. Doesn't really matter who, just someone fast, someone with a car that can lead, and he can just sit there and ride for the rest of this race. It's actually Holgate going down to the inside through corner number 3, but not quite able to get it done. And look at the way that Flanagan able to run away here on this front straightaway.
Yeah, Flanagan definitely pushing forwards here. He's got a better car at the moment. We know Holgate's got some damage, of course, as he wants to try and nurse this car. He's looking for a top 5 finish. It'd be nice for him to get that, but the win just doesn't seem in his reach right now. You need a kind of magic to get this car out front, I think. Just not in a position.
Absolutely right. They work themselves into corner number 2, and your leader's coming out of corner number 2, and logging lap number 57, going to start lap number 58. And Paul Jennings, he has his hands awfully full with Christopher Demeritte right now. And Paul Jennings, he actually lifts pretty heavy going into corner number 3, either conserving tires, giving Demeritte a brake check, or trying to let Demeritte by. I think he lifted a little bit too early if that last option was his intent, though, as they work themselves back down this front straightaway. And Jennings, well, Demeritte has the run. He goes down to the inside line. How's he going to be able to hold this? He'll have some of the dirty air from Tim Doyle out in front, but Christopher not able to hold the inside. Look at the run Jennings able to get off of 2. I think we're seeing it again. Demeritte has that car trimmed out, and because of that, he can't hold the line, can't maintain the momentum.
Certainly can't. I think he's yet to have his finest hour here, Randy, of course, as Paul Jennings really putting on the star performance of this show, moving forward 15th on your grid, and he's now running in the 3rd position. Spectacular performance here by the number 74 car up there. He is just doing a fantastic job in that American Diabetes Association car, doing a spectacular job for that cause and getting himself some good airtime here. He's going to have to go to Tim Doyle and Joe Branch next, as we'll see what he can do, but it's going to be a bit of a charge. The gap has opened up.
It really has, but Tim Doyle, he's been doing a good job the last couple laps. He's reeled in that car of Joe Branch, and importantly, Joe Branch, he's not going to be on super old tires, and he will have a lighter race car. So because of that, he will have the edge, I think, for a while, but he will have to come down pit road sooner if they don't get themselves a yellow. And like we said before, with the way this field has really thinned out, not going to be a lot of yellow flags here today. I mean, you're eventually just going to run out of people that you can provide yellows with. So right now, Joe Branch, I think that early pit stop might have really hurt him, Rachel, especially with everyone coming down just a handful of laps later with that yellow.
I think he was expecting this one to go green, Randy, so he could flip that strategy on his head and see what he could make out of a bad situation, of course. Branch was not running in a particularly good spot. We'll keep an eye behind Flanagan here, because Bradley Walters is coming on very quickly. in that 56 car. We're going to have a fight developing here between the 56 and 53 cars as they come through towards turn number 3, this corner based on the Milwaukee Mile, of course. The track these guys went to this season had a fantastic race, of course, but we'll see if Walters can start to catch up here. As up ahead of them, that is Tim Holgate looking under threat.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing for Tim Holgate is that it's going to be incredibly difficult for him to defend as Flanagan now logs himself behind. I mean, just look at the speed difference as they go into the corner. Holgate's basically almost able to hold it flat because he's so much slower. I don't think his handling on that car that's bad. It's just the top end. And look, I mean, already Holgate's about 150 yards or so and ahead of Flanagan, and Flanagan 6'7". I mean, Flanagan does 222 going into corner number 2. Holgate's doing 215. Is right now looking out front. Joe Branch, he's fallen to the clutches of actually Tim Doyle has caught him. What has happened in this battle? Tim Doyle is there on the inside in corner number 3, working now down your front straightaway. Joe Branch is falling like a rock right now. I don't know what's happened, but Doyle pushing hard. And I think that Joe Branch is going to give this to him as he goes down up to the high side. And Tim Doyle inherits your race lead here today.
Yeah, he certainly does. And wow, what a way to put out the fire there for Tim Doyle. Pushing his car, but up to the inside comes Joe Branch. He's not done yet. Trying to tear it up here for that number 28 machine. He's pushing through this field. He wants to maintain his lead. We're having a good battle, but this could bring Kristen Merritt into the fight here if they fight much more, Randy. And well, that could really cause some problems for these guys if they bring the fastest car in this race back into the lead battle.
Branch and Doyle, pressure pushing down on them as they cross the stripe. Logging lap number 62, working lap number 63. And I'm not sure what happened there, but Branch able to pick the pace back up. It looked to me like he was going to let Doyle go and just run in second place, but coming off of 2, he decided to fight back. So interesting decisions up here at the front. Demerit and Jennings, though, they continue to fight for 3rd and 4th, and Jennings has been quicker the last few laps. So is Demerit struggling in that dirty air as they close up to Doyle and Branch? As they work themselves off of 2 into corner number 3, Branch has a pretty substantial lead. I don't think Doyle's going to be able to make a move here going into corner number 1. We know that Doyle's quick. We know that Doyle's racy, but he doesn't get the run he needs. He needs to sit there in second for now.
Certainly, Randy. Look at that number 53 Rigmatech car of Joe Flanagan. He's fighting really well there with Tim Holgate. He managed to get past Holgate, maintaining that position. They got close again, running through turn 2. Holgate definitely good at the draft, so he can give himself up to cars ahead of him, but he is generally dropping back a little bit here. Not what he wants to have happen. Of course, a bit of a close one to the wall there for Holgate. The side pod damage there definitely causing some understeer for him through turn number 2, as it's definitely going to make things a little bit more dramatic as this one goes forwards. These guys need to make sure they keep on top of this one, and maybe just eventually the hammer will fall on this race and we'll see a checkered flag. But who will be out front? Will it be Tim Doyle, Kristen Merritt, Joe Branch, or could it be Paul Jennings, the charger of the race?
Absolutely right. I mean, Paul Jennings, we saw him do this, I believe, at Iowa. He lapped the entire field after not qualifying. So Paul Jennings, he's a master in these situations, and he's always quick as that battle lead continues to heat up. And, well, that battle for 3rd and 4th gets stretched out a little bit. Jennings thought about making a move into 1, decided against it, and he lost himself a handful of car lengths because of it. Really paid the price there. However, it's not going to be too much in the grand scheme of things. He should be able to work that back up. I actually think of this group of 4, I think Jennings is the quickest. However, Demerit has that car trimmed out. He's going to be difficult to get by, and because of that, that'll take time for Jennings to be able to get around Doyle and Branch.
Yeah,
Branch pits again.
Branch does pit from the lead battle. We knew he had to come in early, Randy, of course. We knew this was something he'd have to do. He didn't pit on that yellow flag, so this might actually cost him more.
This is really early still. He pit on lap 41. This is only a 24-lap run. Surely he can go to at least 30 to 40 laps in these cars. Because right now we're watching the 53 and the 06. Flanagan and Holgate into corner number 2, and you're just seeing it. I mean, Holgate, even in the draft, he's only 2 or 3 miles an hour quicker.
Yeah, let's not forget these guys are limited to 80% of a full fuel tank in the iAdvance IndyCar series here. And this does shorten the run somewhat, so this could be about a run we're expecting from Joe Branch here, but he's one of the few drivers we've seen do a green run, Randy, of course. That yellow in the middle of the overstint, we thought would have saved him a couple of gallons, but apparently not. He could be running a lot shorter stops and planning on going a couple more here, with this one potentially running to the end with it being a bit more open, but as we've seen, people spinning off turn 3 can happen. I'll have to keep an eye on it. Tim Doyle out front now for the first time today in that number 11 machine, running in a good position there. in that ArizonaSportShirts.com machine. He's having a good run. We'll see what he can do. Chris Demerit, though, he's 6/10 back in the draft now. Can that Broken Arrow machine get up front? Paul Jennings, never far away. He's right behind that.
Yeah, Demerit really pushing hard right now, trying to work himself forward, and Paul Jennings as well. And you have to say they got a little bit of clean air with Joe Branch coming down pit road. And look at the time they're able to take out of your leader because of that. Both of your runners in second and third going a 10th.5 quicker than Tim Doyle that last time by as they work themselves now down your long pond straightaway into corner number 2 into the tunnel turn to the infamous bump right in the middle of it that can really upset the cars. Maybe the bump that partially is what helped Holgate get into the wall as they work themselves now into corner number 3. And look at the way Demerit able to really close this gap, but look at the way Doyle stretches it out because Demerit has to actually no, Demerit's going to pit as well. So maybe you're right, Rachel. Might be scheduled pit stops here. Demerit cleanly on a pit road. How long will we expect Jennings and how long will we expect Doyle to be out? But still, it's interesting. Didn't Demerit just come down and pit? Why is he coming down so early?
But
he didn't
soon as well. I expect as well we'll see Doyle and Jennings in soon too, depending on how this one runs. But they've all had about 25 laps or so on this run, so
right. But Demerit and everyone else pit on that last yellow. Branch
they did
exactly.
This could be the same sort of situation here.
I don't know. This is weird because Branch did run a handful of longer laps on those green flag conditions. Maybe everyone's worried about the undercut as Doyle's going to pit as well. So everyone, I think everyone's coming down a little bit early here. And this is interesting in my opinion because, I mean, they should all be able to run about probably 9 to 10 laps further than Branch. And it's been a few laps, but I feel like they should be able to go further than this.
Could be, Randy, that everyone's coming in a little bit early here because perhaps they expect someone to lose it entering pit road or leaving. So a caution around the pit cycle would be a thing. With this being Pocono, you can, of course, pit and stay on the lead laps. So pitting early would be an advantage. We'll just have to see how this one will flow for them. But as it stands, it's now Paul Jennings out front. How long before he heads in? He's in turn 3 now. We'll see this lap if he's going to head to pit road. It's looking like he will not. So he's going to stay out again. From 15th on the grid to the lead of your race, Randy.
Great run from Paul Jennings thus far. And, you know, like you said, Rachel, you do have to start asking questions about the undercut. Paul Jennings' quickest lap is a 42.1. He's currently logging 42.7. Let's look back to Joe Branch. Really the only one who's kind of an indicator in terms of times. Well, he just ran a 42.8, but he ran a 42.1 on the first lap of his stint, his first hot lap after getting those new tires. The next lap after that with a 42.2. What's this one going to be? He worked himself across the stripe of 42.4. So there is a pretty substantial advantage here. As right now, Jennings working himself in the corner number 3. Is he going to come down now? Nope. I think Jennings is going to run this drive.
It certainly looks like he's going to do just that. Tim Holgate also staying out right now as the 11 and the 144 car having pitted here. Doyle and Demerit, they're on track fighting together. We'll see a move here by Demerit possibly in turn number 2, that tunnel turn. But here comes Joe Branch from behind them, so your 3 leaders before. Well, they're catching back up to each other, Randy, and Demerit and Doyle, they did come out ahead of Branch, so advantage to them. Also, slightly older tires.
It'd also be important to note though, because they pit under that yellow, they would have had a shorter stop due to the fuel. It's actually Branch going to make the move on Demerit going into corner number 1, puts it to the inside. And how is Demerit? Is he going to be able to maintain the momentum? We've seen that be the case for everyone all race long, and look at that. Advantage to Demerit coming off the corner. We're getting word on the radio. Paul Jennings going to be hitting your pit lane this time by as he works himself through corner number 1. So it's going to be in about another lap. But it's spotters just letting everyone know, so everyone's prepared and no one's caught out because of that. Joe Branch still on the back of Christopher Demerit. Demerit on the back of Doyle as they come off of corner number 3. And it's going to be interesting to see how this works out here because Paul Jennings, I think Paul Jennings will lose out. Is Paul Jennings out of gas?
We'll have a look here. Paul Jennings, nah, I'm not sure. I think he's okay.
Look at him through second and third. Through turn 2 and turn 3, he hiccuped.
Yeah, that car's coming very slowly on pit road. Paul Jennings just gambling a little too hard there as he will head onto pit road. We'll see if he can make it to his box.
He's
actually
coasting.
Here. He is. Yeah, the car's silent, Randy. The car is out of fuel now. And he just made it onto pit road. He's going to have to nail this pit box, of course. But We'll see if he can make it actually into his box here. This is dramatic
He's
for
losing
Paul Jennings.
tons of time because
He is,
of this.
but look where he stops. It's stopping very early, of course, because he was last on the grid in qualifying. That car is okay now. The engine's back running again. He's got fuel and tyres. Down and away, he will rejoin, but he's definitely going to lose the grip he had on the lead. Dramatic there by Jennings, pushing it a little too far.
Just out one lap too far, and you see, look at how far he's going to get shuffled down your order. You have Tim Holgate and Bradley Walters. He's going to be getting passed by both of them as well, so I mean, Paul Jennings just pushing that one little lap too much just didn't quite work. Now, this could be the Will Vincent strategy. Will Vincent did famously win a big soft race at Talladega back in the day by running the car out of fuel twice, and because of that, he was able to actually cut out a splash and dash on everybody else. So if Paul Jennings, if he sees that as a fuel window, it might be disadvantage Jennings now, but if we stay green, that extra lap and maybe another one of those for another green flag run, and maybe even a third one as well, depending how many more stops we're expecting, that could be advantage Jennings. As he goes to work on Bradley Walters, he's going to set his sights on Holgate next.
He certainly is, and Andrew Casello's just been telling us actually, Randy, that we are, of course, what we did mention earlier, limited to 80% fuel in this race. Normal full tank, about 33 laps on a tank here, so 25 to 27 laps is the window we're looking at. That's what we've seen so far from the likes, of course, of Joe Branch, the likes of Demerit and Doyle. Of course, they came in later because they had, of course, stopped on the caution. And right now, that's exactly what we saw there by Jennings, but he's pushed that to about 28 laps in that stint. 29 laps possibly. That's been a big advantage for him. If this adds up, he could be in a great position, but the risk is so high.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And right now, look behind Holgate there. I mean, look at the advantage. Holgate was at one point running and maintaining pace with Paul Jennings.
Oh, up the hill he goes, Randy.
Absolutely right, but I mean, look at this. Holgate just not able to come up and not able to really push. That car just with that aerodynamic drag. I mean, even in the draft, Jennings is faster.
Yeah, he certainly is, and it's definitely showing a big advantage there, of course. The track temperature is quite high here, Randy. So if we look at what our weather conditions are, it's just about average. It's about 79 degrees Fahrenheit air temperature. Track, though, is 114 degrees. That's quite hot. Let's not forget we also have a south wind at 10 to 11 miles an hour, which is pretty big for this one. So it's windy, and the track is very hot, which means the tyres are a massive limiting factor in this one. A few older lap tyres, well, you're in a bad position when it comes to passing, or even getting out the draft to try and pass somebody later in the run.
Absolutely right. Important to note, we are now 2 laps, getting ready to start the 3rd lap past halfway here at Pocono. Tim Doyle, let's do a bit of a field rundown. Tim Doyle runs first. Christopher Demerit, your pole sitter, he runs in second. Joe Branch, third. Joe Flanagan, fourth. Paul Jennings, after that interesting strategy call, he runs fifth. Holgate, sixth. After those early troubles in the first 30 or so laps of your event, Walters, seventh. Robert Gortz, eighth. Stanley Ench, ninth. Nathan Bookbinder in 10th. Tim Miller, 11th. Andrew Kinsella, 12th. Someone who must not be named, 13th, 47 laps down. Marco Brazil, 48 laps down. Michael Peters, 67 laps down. He was the one who brought out that first yellow flag. So, it's all pretty much line of stern up here at the front. Tim Doyle, Demerit, and Branch, they've all pretty much gotten strung out here as they work themselves into quarter number 3. I think these guys right now, they know that you still have an entire second half of your race here. I think they're going to play pretty nice with each other. Probably won't push too hard.
Certainly will, of course, as we are literally in that second half now. We're on lap 78, going on to 79 here with Tim Doyle. And this is just past halfway, so we're in a great position. This race, still a lot to play out, but this is looking a lot greener now, Randy.
Yeah, it really is. This is having all the symptoms of a green flag run. Everyone's spaced out. Everyone is done, pretty much done their cycle pit stops. So Tim Holgate, he's got himself clear of Bradley Walters, but with his pace disadvantage, how long is that going to last? And, well, Paul Jennings, he's skipped away freely from Tim Holgate, working himself into corner number 3. And that's the thing for Mr. Paul Jennings. He lost himself a bunch of time, but he didn't lose himself really a lot of positions.
No, he certainly didn't, and it's going to shake things around. Of course, we'll see what happens when he gets up there, but Doyle out front, certainly. Merritt is chasing, but they are catching lap traffic.
You're absolutely right. And while this is happening, we're going to step away for a couple minutes' time. Don't go away, guys. We'll be right back.
For iRacing to get Le Mans is huge. I mean, this is a unique event, a unique track where, you know, half of the track is public road, so you can never test on it, you never get experience on it, and it's 8 miles in length, 4-minute lap time in a GT car. So, you know, even if you're here for an hour of testing, that's only 15 laps, and you're only going to see the corner 15 times that day. The first section going through the Dunlop area is pretty unique. You know, it's got elevation change and off camber. Then you go down Mulsanne into the chicanes, and you know, the straights are unbelievably long. It's a tricky track, and you know, every year I've come here, this being my 4th year, you learn something new every time.
We've wanted to add Le Mans to iRacing for a long time, and we've really been working hard towards it for the last 5 years. But really, things only came together in the last week leading up to this race, so it was a real scramble to put everything together. The majority of Le Mans is public roads, so when they're preparing for the 24-hour race, it's really the only time that we can visit to laser scan and photograph the track so that we can recreate it in iRacing. We work closely with the ACO to get essentially exclusive access to the facility and everything that we needed to get the laser scanning and photographic reference that we need to create the track. We were very fortunate to be at Le Mans at the most important time of the year and gain that experience of being there. And we're going to really do the best we can to put that into our work and making sure that the Le Mans in iRacing is the best Le Mans, the most exciting and accurate recreation of the track possible.
Welcome back here to RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live as we continue with coverage of the finale of your Indy Elite Series at Pocono for the 3rd round of the Triple Crown. Tim Doyle currently with a commanding 9/10 of a second lead over Christopher Demerit. Joe Branch runs 3rd, 2 seconds off your leader. Joe Flanagan and Paul Jennings round out your top 5. Important to note, after running out of gas, Paul Jennings went from being in that lead pack to being 12 seconds off. It may pan out in terms of in the later stages of this race, Rachel, if he can maybe find a way to scrub out a pit stop by eking out those extra two laps. Because if he does that twice, you might just be able to do it. We're not quite sure how the math is going to work out, but it's a pretty big risk from Jennings either way.
It certainly is, and of course he's been one of the true people we've seen pushing forwards this one, tearing it up on the racetrack, Randy. Really the man on the prowl in this field, but I think it's going to be a tough one, as perhaps we might actually see someone come through, maybe, you know, the invisible man in this position, Tim Doyle. Even though he is out front, I think a lot of us have really discounted him as a factor. And I think, you know, it could be his chance here. If he doesn't lose his head, he is in a great position to take a win in this round.
He really is. I mean, the way this race has gone, it is sort of opened up. Just, I mean, the fact that you've had so many of your front runners in the early stages just basically get taken out of it, and because of that, it is a situation where there's a handful of drivers, all of which that can win. I think right now your favorite has to be Mr. Tim Doyle, just based on the fact that he has that gap and Demerit stopped bringing it down. So, I mean, if it stays green, Demerit's going to have to find a way to reel in that 9/10 of a second gap and then get by Doyle. Same with Joe Branch. It's actually Doyle clips that apron through corner number 2. An uncharacteristic mistake from Doyle. He gets super loose. This brings Demerit back into it. The fight for your lead is on.
Oh, it certainly is. There is definitely opportunity knocking at the door here. As we'll have to see what anyone can do about this one. But he really does a mistake. He didn't need to make it a stage. He was in a clear position, half a second clear of Demerit. Here comes Demerit, though. Big advantage to him. Absolutely flying, Randy. And could be looking to try and take a fight to him here.
Absolutely right. I mean, that was 4/10 of a second that Doyle lost there. So, I mean, that's going to give Demerit the draft, but it will also give Demerit the arrow push, but Demerit now should be able to sit into that draft of Doyle, should be able to save himself a bit of gas. And I mean, look at the run that Demerit's able to get now because of this, going through corners number 2 and 3, and Demerit shows the nose going into 3, but Tim Doyle shuts the door. The arrow push makes Demerit have to lift out of it, but Demerit, look at the run he already has. He's already matching the speed and going over that, as now they work themselves into corner number 1, but Demerit not quite close enough. That mistake from Doyle hurt a lot.
Oh, it certainly did, Randy, and oh, that one definitely hurt him to the core. Not what he wants to have happen at this stage of the race. It really has eaten away that chance for him. It's put him in a really bad position, because look at how close to where it's getting. He's definitely catching up here, and he needs to avoid this one, because the fight is about to come from the inside. It's going to be Chris Demerit, who has the fastest car. We know that. I'll tell you what, if I'd have got loose in turn 2 like Tim Doyle did, that'd have been sheer heart attack, Randy.
You're absolutely right. It's not often that you're able to get loose like that, be able to save it in one of these Indy cars. As right now, Joe Branch again, blinking early, hitting down the pit road right now. So, I mean, if this stays green, this has all the symptoms of not going well for Mr. Joe Branch, as Doyle and Demerit continue to log laps here. And it was about, how many laps was the last time? Actually, Demerit gets a run going into 2, shows the nose going into 2. Doyle, I think Doyle didn't expect him to close like that. He went through the middle line. This is going to bring Demerit into the mix, to the inside, going into corner number 3, and Demerit, he's there. He has the spot cleared. Will Doyle get the cutback? No, because he's going to the pits. They're all going to the pits. Oh, are you guys going to be able to get on cleanly? Yes, you are. Luckily, it's a wide pit road entry here.
Oh, that certainly was the millionaire's waltz there, Randy. That was a very interesting entry to pit road. 2 wide off turn 3, 2 wide into pit road. And what a fantastic entry there. Long away as they get into this these pit boxes. Sunoco race fuel and 4 Firestone tyres. As sliding into his box goes Chris Demerit. Will he get the advantage off pit road though? This will be the telling tale of this one, as he doesn't quite, but he pulls out alongside him again, as this is definitely going to be a race of these two. You could almost say they're best friends here. They seem to be spending so much time together.
Absolutely right, and they're going to come out behind the slower traffic of Bookbinder and Danley Inch, and these guys are actually having a pretty good scrap right now, running themselves now down at the tail end of your top 10. They'll likely get cycled back out of your top 10 once these pit stops all cycle through. Joe Branch currently working themselves into corner number 2. Where are Doyle and Demerit? Well, they're working themselves out of corner number 2, so again, Joe Branch, he tries to work the undercut, but these guys, is actually Doyle to the inside, going to corner number 3. Able to make that stick. Great move there by Tim. But as I was going to say, and actually I take that back to Merritt. He gets the run, and there's lap traffic here. Are they going to go 3 wide into corner number 1? This is going to be sketchy for your race lead, boys. Only a couple of you racing for this. Don't do this at the midway pack. They're going to make it work, though, as Tim Doyle on the high side. Is he going to be able to make it work? Now they set their sights on Nathan Bookbinder, and Nathan has to be looking behind, saying, thanks for the gap to Dan, boys, but please play nicer with me.
Oh, certainly is. They come right up behind Nathan Bookbinder, much, much faster at the moment, as Bookbinder will stay high, and inside will go the car there, Tim Doyle behind him, Chris Demerit waiting in line. Oh, as he gets a little bit tight there, he's going to get trapped behind the car there of Bookbinder. As Bookbinder pulls down, he's going to head himself to pit road here, Randy, getting out of the way of this one. But look at the gap that's opened up there between Tim Doyle and Chris Demerit. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I mean, it really has. Just that one little moment with the lap traffic, and you just lose so much time. And Demerit, all that work, that perfect pit stop, and just, you know, he had done so much to be able to reel that gap in, and it just goes away. Paul Jennings, though, he stayed out. When is he going to blink and come down to the pit lane? We've seen him already once run himself out of fuel. Was that a mistake, or does he see a number that no one else does?
Well, that's going to be the magic question, Randy, and the one we really need to keep our eyes on, of course, here is really this race strategy is in the lap of the gods for this one. It's going to be up in air, but I think it could be something that we're seeing here from Paul Jennings, something he's trying to achieve, and, well, it's going to be a tricky one, but at the same time, if he can pull this one off, it's going to be incredible, and, you know, he really will do this one for him, but at the same time, you know, it all has to play the right way. Cards have to lie out properly, and he has to be in a position to take advantage. But, you know, he has to set this one, and he has to see what can come of it. And I think there is a chance for it, as he goes for that one opportunity, and it could be exactly what he needs.
interesting to note, 2 cars currently have in pit. They are Paul Jennings and Tim Holgate. Tim Holgate 5 seconds off the back of Paul Jennings. This is important because we know Tim Holgate is a master of saving fuel. If Tim Holgate can get himself to a fuel number that no one else can, if he can cut himself out a pit stop, because his car is already so much slower than everyone else's, he might just be the dark horse for this race win. We will really have no idea until that point actually happens, and it's really going to depend on when Tim Holgate pits in comparison to Paul Jennings. Another car hits the pit road behind behind Holgate. That's Tim Miller. He's laps down though, but Holgate and Jennings, I mean, it really is all eyes on Jennings here. If Jennings comes down before Holgate, then Holgate really doesn't have much of a chance. He's not getting the mileage he needs. If Holgate is able to lead some laps though here because Jennings pits earlier, it might be something we have to talk about towards the later stages of this race, Rachel.
It certainly could be, and we could be expecting something quite special here from this one, as you know, he's playing the game exactly how he has to play the game. He is under pressure from the strategy, but at the same time, it is working the right way, and you know, he's dead on time in terms of strategy at the moment. So this could be a very, very good call here by Paul Jennings in the American Diabetes Association car, but it's gonna be close.
Getting word that Holgate has just hit the pit lane, so that kind of rules him out of having any real chance of coming away with the win here. In order for him to be able to do it, he'd have to outrun Jennings, and we're getting word again on the radios, Jennings coming down the pit road. Is he going to run that car out of fuel again? Going into corner number 3, it didn't look like it, and now working himself through corner number 3. Does he come down pit road? Yes, he does, so he's not going to risk it nearly as much this time. We're expecting Paul Jennings will have a longer pit stop, and because of that, he will likely lose even more time to the likes of Demerit and Branch, as well as Doyle. Yeah, he's already down on the pit road right now, getting ready to get into his pit stall right now. Pit stop begins, fuel starts getting on board, tires start getting put on, and where are the rescue leaders? Where's Doyle? Doyle's already passed going into 1. Demerit's passed, Branch is passed. Where's Jennings? He's just now leading his box. This is important for the race. He won't be able to do this on pace, but he will have the shortest pit stop at the end of the race because he's going longer every single stint.
Yeah, it certainly is, and like I say, I think this could be the magic touch for him here. This could be exactly what he needs. You know, right now he's one man with one goal and one mission, that is to save exactly the fuel he needs for this one. And that is the one solution he has for us, Randy. That is, he has to save, beat Tim Holgate. Tim Holgate isn't in this fight, so beat Tim Holgate. And Paul Jennings right now is doing a fantastic job, and I think he's got the one vision needed for this race to actually make this one a more successful strategy.
And it's important to note that on lap 90 is where we saw Branch and Demerit pit. Is where we saw Doyle and Demerit pit. Joe Branch pit on lap 89. And the thing is, that's important to remember. Every single time he's able to go longer on a run like that, every single time he goes 6 laps longer, the next run, he's going to go 12 laps longer. The next run, he's going to go 18 laps longer. So because of that, that will eventually stack up, and he will have the shortest final pit stop of all of these guys. Yes, they will have the track position now, but he will have an extraordinarily quick splash and dash here. However, it's important to note, pit stops aren't very long in this series or in this car. Jennings is going to have to find some other way to come up with that 16 seconds he lost after running himself out of fuel. Only way I think he can do that is if he can cut out a stop entirely.
It certainly is. I think he's going to be tight on that one, Randy. I think it could be possible. But like I said, you know, it's going to take a certain kind of magic to get into that position. I think he needs to have another 2 very long stints in the next couple of laps, and he can actually pull this one off just about tight, but possible. And, well, it could be something he could do.
Absolutely right, and important to note, we are hitting lap number 100. Gonna have 250 miles logged in the books here today. As Tim Doyle still in a commanding lead here, 1.1 seconds over Christopher Demerit. I mean, look at all the time Joe Branch has lost. 3 seconds back from second place, and so I mean 4 seconds from first to third. Joe Branch coming in early, that's just been a complete disaster for him. He's been trying to do it with the undercut, but every time he tries it, Demerit and Doyle just come down pit road. Because they have a fuller tank, they have a super short pit stop, and they're getting new tires anyways. Branch, I think what he needs to do is he needs to run as long as he can and force Demerit and Doyle to run long as well.
Yeah, he really does, and I mean, this is here we belong in terms of these guys. You know, they're in the right place for this, and they are fighting to keep this one in. They have no rival. You know, there is nothing they can really be beaten with. They have to try and make this one work as they are on speed. The likes of Demerit and Branch have to win this race on speed. Doyle and Jennings, I think, are the fuel masters for this one. They are the contenders we know on the fuel strategy side. Demerit and Branch, they have to go fast. They have to use everything they've got for this one, so no one can be their equal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and because of that, I think Doyle's playing this safe. He knows that Jennings has an outside shot here. He knows that in all realms of reasonable thinking, Jennings is sort of out of this unless he's hitting a fuel number we're somewhat unaware of. We are kind of cluing into it now that maybe that's what he's doing, because that is the only way that he could come up with this. There's no other way he can come up with 16 seconds here today. So because of that, pretty easy to say that has to be his plan. Like you said, though, Branch and Demerit, they need to do this on pace, and the easiest way for them to do that is by coming down and doing the undercut. Because of that, it's just a master stroke for Doyle. Every time they hit the lane, you just come in the lap after. The new tire advantage won't be there, and you'll have a short pit stop because you're so full on fuel.
Yeah, he certainly is, and that's going to be the big turnaround in this one. They need to make sure they're in the right place, of course, but it could be that fuel is going to be a costing factor for them, but we know that the temperature is quite high, so it's really affecting the tyres in this one. Joe Branch, you know, I think he's really struggling with tyres in that car. He is pitting a lap or two earlier than everybody else, Randy. I don't think he'll be able to hold on in the long term. He is dropping back considerably from Demerit and Doyle right now. Demerit really holding station 1.2 seconds back from your leader, but he's in the right place.
It's important to note, Rachel, but of course also important to note is that based in Indianapolis, iAdvance Motorsports is one of the top simulator training facilities in motorsports. Built by IndyCar driver Darren Manning, the iAdvance simulator features a 20-foot long and 8-foot tall screen that wraps 180 degrees around an actual Indy-like setup. iAdvance uses the latest hardware and software to be as close to the real thing as possible, along with the best pedal assembly, steering wheel and force feedback money can buy, making it the perfect tool to effectively and accurately train race car drivers and sim racers alike. Visit iAdvanceMotorsports.com to sign up today. And also important to note that Rick Motec, they're the sponsor of the Triple Crown. Go to Rick Motec, and if you spend $100, you will get $20 off here due to the promotion they have with Indy Elite. So that's our sponsorship contributions done, Rachel. Now
It certainly is, Randy.
we can
But
just
speaking of
focus
the
on the race.
sponsorship cars, though, we look at where Joe Branch is running. He's there in the iAdvance Motorsports car, running in third place. Great run from him. Look who's behind him. It's Joe Flanagan in the Rick Motec car. So two sponsors running back-to-back in the positions, third and fourth here.
Joe Branch is 9 seconds ahead, so does that say something about the quality of Rick Motec? Or does me questioning that, am I just fired?
Oh, is that something we should be talking about?
Am I just fired?
Is iAdvance Motorsports better than Rick Motec? Is that why they're ahead? Has he got better parts in that car, Randy? It could be a thing, but I'm sure the dashboard he's got in that iAdvance Motorsports car is a Rick Motec one. They do make some very good sim electronics.
You're absolutely right. I actually have a couple Rick Motec products as well, so I have to say the quality is impeccable. But focusing back on the race and less on the banter, Christopher Demerit, he's cut that gap down to just 9/10 of a second, and this is something we saw last time, Rachel. Christopher Demerit gets to that midway point of the run, he starts coming on strong.
Yeah, he certainly does. We'll have to make sure they keep an eye on where he is through this one. Of course, we need to keep an eye on that. But, you know, it's going to be a long race. We've still got about 44 laps in this one. You've got a green flag feeling here, Randy. So the strategy we're seeing here from Paul Jennings could be a factor. He could have done the whole gate, spotting that one little trick. But, you know, I think Branch, he's going to be short of this one. He'll have to make one extra stop based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that one trick, and because of that one trick, crew chiefs hate him, and because of that, He's trying to work the strategy the best that he can, be able to come away with the win. It is sort of a boring race at this point. Not a lot really happening. No real close battles out there on the racetrack. Closest battle is between Doyle and Demerit at the moment. It really is just all eyes on whether or not we will stay green here to the end. But Demerit's been reeling Doyle in the last couple of laps by about a 10th here, a 10th there. And the thing is, in these cars, that adds up to be quite a bit. And look, going by that time again, another half a 10th goes to the way of Demerit.
It certainly does, and Demerit's in a good position. He is gaining here, so Tim Doyle could be under threat. And we'll see another race between this pair, Randy, of course, as they did pit together last time by. The last pitted, of course, on lap number 89. And we saw from that one, of course, we're now at, well, about 89.90 actually for them. So we're expecting to see those guys in on 1:15 or around that mark. So we've got about 6-7 laps in this one, and I think the time will be to the point where we see Demerit and Doyle side by side here on lap 1:15. I'm calling it now, and they'll hit pit road again together.
Absolutely right. Unless, if memory serves right, what were we saying with the 80% fuel run and green flag run?
About 25 to 27 laps, so it could be 7 laps.
25
could be
or
9
27,
laps.
and what was your prediction? 115?
Well, it's looking likely to be 1:15
Okay,
to
well,
1:17.
I'm thinking. Well, I'm not thinking about them. 115 to 117.
They have to make another stop after this one.
No,
of
right.
course, so.
But I'm thinking of Paul Jennings. Paul Jennings been running 6 laps further. That puts him at lap 123.
He's in a one-stop.
If we're estimating 20, actually Doyle hit the pit lane right now, Rachel. So laugh
split
at
this
you.
one. Actually, yeah, I am wrong.
I think
but
you're right.
I think he's splitting this cycle up as well to try and make it 2 equal stints rather than one normal and of course a short stop. But I think Paul Jennings could be in a great position with this. It was actually lap 97 he hit pit road, Randy. So if he's stretching this to 28, 29 laps, I think he has 1 stop left.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. If we're estimating about 25, 27
16
laps,
seconds at least, like we talked about.
Oh, that's more than 16 seconds. It's 2 to 3 seconds in fuel, and you probably drive. I mean, this is an extraordinarily long pit road for an oval. So, I mean, if Paul Jennings right now, I think unless Demerit, Branch, and Doyle, unless they can really pick up the wick here, as Branch actually hits the pit road, so kind of a reversal of roles here from what we've seen. Demerit stays out, and I think this is a good call by Demerit, because by doing this, yeah, you're going to be on older tires from the rest of the guys that you've been running with, but I don't think this is going to be a race that's won on tires at this point. This is going to be one on fuel, and I think Demerit, by getting himself a shorter final stop, will be in a more advantageous position than he will by stopping and getting new tires now. So he's probably just going to pit this next time by and just disprove everything I just said.
Oh, absolutely. We made some grand theoretical calculations of how this race is going to play out, and of course they'll completely do the opposite just to mess with us.
Absolutely right, as they currently work themselves. And by themselves, I mean Christopher Demerit starting lap 112, Joe Branch off the pit road. Joe Flanagan works himself. Currently third place runner, Paul Jennings in fourth. I think that'll update as they come through now to cross the stripe. We'll get the updated runnings. Actually, Paul Jennings logged in third place. Joe Branch logged a little further down the order. Actually, Joe Flanagan hit the pit road as well. Tim Holgate's staying out, and this is the thing. We've seen Tim Holgate going long too. Right now we're expecting... What's the earliest we think these guys can come in? Probably lap 124? 125 to be able to make it to the end?
Yeah, for the final run, I'm thinking 123 is the outside edge. When are we going to see someone along the lines of Jennings heading to pit road? I'm going to say it'll be 121. We'll see him hit pit road.
The thing that's important to remember is he went 6 laps longer the last time, which means he should go 12 laps longer this time.
Exactly, and we put the window about 115, so add laps to that. It's 127.
It's tight.
He's gonna it's not gonna be tight. Actually, the border could be a little broader for him in this position. It could be like a 3 or 4 lap overlap. So I think he's in a great position, Randy.
I mean, Jennings is he's definitely in a great position right now, but it is going to be close to within just a handful of laps. I think if you're Jennings, though, even if you don't think you need the fuel, there's no reason for you to not fill that car to the brim to ensure that you make it. You don't want to short fill this car. It actually comes down pit road now.
Oh, that's changed everything.
Rip us.
Yeah, that's completely thrown our strategy out the window. Thanks for that one, Paul Jennings. He just exactly as we said, and threw it completely on its head. I don't understand
One of two things just happened. Either Jennings just flat out made the mistake, didn't think he was going to be able to do it, or he just realized that he made a mistake and that he actually can't do it. So Paul Jennings, somewhere he made the mistake, but importantly enough, because he came down like this, he is going to have, because he did go longer the other stops, he is going to have a short pit stop. But still, I mean, look where he comes out compared to Demerit and Doyle. Yeah, it's just, I think that regardless of, I mean, we obviously can't see the fuel numbers. I think that for Jennings, I mean, he definitely could have gone a handful of laps more. I mean, what was that stint for him? He came in on lap 97. That was only that wasn't even a 20. Yeah, that wasn't even a 20 lap stint. And we know you can do about 25. He cut that by. I think if you're Jennings, even if it's really tight, even if you have to do it, do it
Will Vincent.
Yeah, do it the 2016 style by putting yourself in fuel map 8, like the pace car settings. I think that was the only way you had a chance to pick up any positions here. I honestly think Jennings just removed any chance he had of winning this race.
I mean, based on our calculations, Randy, he was in a great position to actually take this one with an absolute fuel masterpiece and pull a Alexander Rossi at the Indy 500 with this one, but that's completely gone now. He's put himself back on the same strategy as everyone else, and he hasn't got the pace to go on the same strategy as everyone else.
Absolutely right. I mean, he doesn't have the pace, and it was just, I mean, he has the pace, but he doesn't have the track position. He had the pace up until a handful of stops ago when he ran himself out of gas and he went all the way down to the back of the field. So, I mean, Paul Jennings, I mean, it's definitely, unless he can go a little bit further, or unless the fuel window is a little further than what we've been told, in which case everyone can make it to the end anyways.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I'm really surprised by that one, Randy. Not what we expected this to happen in this one, of course, as it's changed everything.
Important to note, though, Holgate's still lapping.
He is. Could Holgate be deciding the same strategy as
he
Paul
stopped?
Jennings,
96.
So 1 lap behind,
laps.
so it is a window. There is a window making it possible.
96 to 1. As Holgate gets really loose off of 1. 96 to 123. That was scary loose for Holgate. What a save by him. Even Mr. World Championship Grand Prix Series champion, our producer, is saying, wow, what a save. If Holgate can stretch 6 more laps here, he's got this, and he's letting Doyle go. That either means he's coming in pit road now or he's saving hard.
Well, I think Doyle was definitely going to get through anyway on speed. I think he's using this opportunity for drafting, but we know Tim Holgate will always pull a fuel strategy when he has the opportunity, Randy. And I think if anyone could see a pattern, it's Tim Holgate. He has pitted in a window where we could see this one work. Lap 96 will, of course, see him on about 120, 122, 3, 4 with saving. So 123, I think, is potentially possible here for Tim Holgate. So you add to that another 27, you're in a position to be at the front of this one and actually win this race.
It's going to be very tight.
And he was about 20 seconds back, let's not forget. But if he doesn't have to make the second stop, that sees him out front.
Right, but it's also important to note that never mind. Rip us.
Yeah, again, we make another prediction, and they completely do the opposite. So, guys, when you watch this race back, if you were in this one tonight, feel free just to completely laugh at the stuff we're talking about in terms of fuel strategy, because clearly we know about as much about this as we do about tapestry weaving.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, the Spider is who you want to ask about that sort of stuff. So, I mean, unless Tim Holgate knows the numbers, I mean, if we're thinking 27 laps, 31, I mean, 4 laps to save. I mean, Tim Holgate, if there's anyone that could save 4 laps of gas, it's Tim Holgate. But still, that's a pretty tall order. But I honestly think if you're Tim Holgate, you already have the championship. YOLO, dude. Just put that thing in fuel map 8, push it to the end, try to get yourself this triple crown.
Absolutely. It's literally going for the championship. He's got the championship, I should say. And, well, you know, Tim Holgate, he's trying to do something special here. He's had, of course, that spin earlier on. It was his own fault, really, after the incident with Marco Brazil. And, you know, I think if anyone should try it, it's him. He was in a great position to do that, and, you know, he really could have taken the opportunity, but it seems like he hasn't.
Yeah, right now we actually have a couple battles forming up on your racetrack right now. Danley Inch and Bradley Walters, they fight as they cross your start-finish line going into corner number 1. Looking a little bit up the field as well, there's another battle between Joe Flanagan and Paul Jennings. Jennings had pace on Flanagan, though. I think he'll make short work. And actually, has Flanagan logged his last pit stop? Yes, he did. Well, his most recent pit stop, he did that on lap number 112. But, I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting decisions from these guys. I mean, Jennings pit a handful of laps after Holgate did that last time by. So it's just confusing to me. I mean, how many laps? I mean, Jennings on his last stop, or the stop before, he was lap 97. Holgate came down on lap 95. So surely Jennings could have made it to the window.
I mean, we've been talking about this, and we said, of course, about 33 laps in a full tank with the 80% limit we have here, 25-27. Yet none of these guys have been doing what they can actually do, apart from Paul Jennings. And Paul Jennings put himself in a position to go one stop to the end.
And then didn't.
And then he didn't. And I mean, I know these guys are possibly tyre limited, but if you're in a position to cut out a pit stop and suffer 5 to 10 laps of terrible tyres, why weren't you doing that? Because you weren't losing that much time in comparison.
And that's the thing. We're not losing.
It wasn't a big enough difference in time.
Right, and then especially in terms of drop-off on this bigger racetrack, yeah, the drop-off is there. The fastest times are about 42.25s. You drop off to about 42.5. You're only losing 0.3 per lap. That's not nearly as bad as we've seen on some of the short tracks where your times can drop off to a second and a half or more. So, I mean, the tire drop-off, yeah, it's there, but it's almost irrelevant. I mean, in a pit stop sequence, yeah, I mean, a pit stop is relatively short in these cars, only about, something to the order of about 7 to 8 seconds, incredibly quick, but it's the trip down that pit road that hurts you. It's 20 to 30 seconds minimum.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, we're only talking about fuel strategy now because nothing's really happening on racetrack here, Randy. It's 5 seconds, 6 seconds with Tim Doyle and Chris Demerit. It's maybe a second and a half back to Joe Branch from them, so that could be something that develops. Flanagan, he's nearly 14 seconds back from Branch. Jennings, he's nearly catching him, so we could see him fighting for fourth right now, but everybody else spread out by 4 to 10 seconds, so this one's really kind of filtering through. Holgate 34 seconds back now. I don't think he can make this one up without having another stop, but at the same time, he again shot his own strategy opportunity.
He's going too fast. There's no way he can save it. I mean, he's going as fast as that car is gone. Actually, he's going the fastest that car's gone since that impact. So, I mean, unless Holgate has some fuel saver setup on that thing, I don't think there's any way he can make it there to the end. And just to run down your order a little bit, we'll go through your lead lap runners. Tim Doyle currently leads, second place. Christopher Demerit, 6.3 seconds off your leader. Joe Branch, 0.6 off of second place. And Joe Branch is reeling in Christopher Demerit, so that's a fight that's going to kick up pretty soon, and they're probably going to interrupt me. Joe Flanagan fourth, Paul Jennings fifth, just behind. No important to note. It's a 13-second gap from third to fourth. As right now, looking at Joe Branch, he does get a bit of a run on Demerit coming out of quarter number 1, but not quite enough. Paul Jennings, like I said, fifth. Bradley Walters sixth. Your last lead lap runner is Tim Holgate, 35 seconds off the lead in seventh. Danley Inch runs eighth. Nathan Bookbinder ninth. And your last real runner out there is Tim Miller, rounding out your top 10, 2 laps down. He's just basically logging laps tonight. Looking back to this battle here for second place, Demerit and Branch, they're starting to get dicey. And Demerit's pace has dropped off. Is Demerit maybe saving now to have a shorter stop later?
And that'll be the major factor, of course, as these guys get to this point. Of course, Demerit let them go very easily there. But yeah, it lets them have the opportunity to save here. And if you can have a shorter final stop in this one, because we know it's going to be one short stop, in the region of a 5 to 6 second stop for everybody in this one, Randy. So if you can shave some time off that final stop, save a bit of gas, it will get you ahead of people, especially close battles that we have between Demerit and we have Branch, of course, and Flanagan and Jennings. They're on top of each other as well. Paul Jennings catching another car here could bring himself up to fourth, so a bit of a good finish for him, but he's going to have to get in position first.
Yeah, see, I mean, this is the other thing with Jennings making that pit stop, is he puts himself back down the order, and he puts himself fighting with cars that he probably, even if he wouldn't have got the win going for fuel, chances are he'd be fighting with these guys. And like I said, for Jennings, it's just a big surprise for me that he didn't try to stretch it. And unless the fuel window is more broad than what we realize, and it might very well be, We're assuming we have good information, but we may not.
Oh, we could say Andrew Kinsella's fed us complete codswallop up on the fuel strategy, fuel numbers, and we can blame Andrew Kinsella because he's not here to defend himself. So I'm going to blame him.
Yeah. So just so everyone knows, if Paul Jennings or Tim Holgate one stop from here to the end, and me and Rachel called it without actually realizing it because we got told numbers, it's Andrew Kinsella's fault, not ours. Yell at him. So, really working themselves into corner number 2, and Doyle, he has himself a pretty comfortable gap here, and Joe Branch, well, after getting by Demerit, that gap has actually fallen a lot. Demerit has to be saving gas.
Yeah, he does, but what's the point in saving gas now?
Damage on the right side of his side
well,
pod.
it is causing aero drag for him and burning a bit more fuel, but can't be that significant.
Well, I mean, the damage here could be slowing him down. I mean, look at how much it's slowing down Holgate.
Why is he pushing? Of course, he's 4 seconds behind Walters.
That's
no
true.
one really to catch. All he has to do is stay in the lead lap, which he's... Okay,
No.
Demerit.
Demerit.
Oh, Demerit. So I thought we were talking about Holgate. So yeah, Demerit. I think he is trying to save some fuel here, but he has got some damage. He has had a couple of close calls to the wall. I seem to recall Demerit having a race recently where he did spend most of it bouncing off the wall. Actually, that was Milwaukee.
I mean, that happens a lot at Milwaukee. Milwaukee, very tricky racetrack, very flat, and wanting to, of course, run as much full throttle as you can. They're a difficult racetrack. But we are going to step away for a short time here and bring you the last 20 laps of your Indy Elite Series and, most importantly, the final race of your Indy Elite Triple Crown. Don't go away. We'll be back. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and iRacingLive as we're bringing you the final 17 or so laps here for your Indy Elite Series. Pit stops currently cycling through. I believe Paul Jennings has just come off a pit road here as he starts lap number 133. And actually, yeah, that would have been a pit stop for Paul, and it is sort of, at this point, Rachel, all eyes on Holgate. He pit a couple of laps later. It'd be on the outer fringes of what we think is possible, but it's Holgate. If anyone can make the impossible possible, it's him.
It certainly is, but I'm not sure if there's time at the moment for that to happen, but we'll have to see what can actually come from this one.
Actually, I don't
so
think he
far,
can
our
do it
predictions
anyway.
have been wrong. No, I don't think he can.
well,
Everyone has to stop once more. We've been proved completely wrong, of course.
Well, no,
Everyone's gonna
I
push it to the
don't
end of
mean
their tank
that.
and then
I mean that he's currently getting passed by Joe Branch, who just came off a pit road.
he did. So he was
So,
literally in a position with Randy, of course, where he was wiggling, nearly hit the wall there for Tim Holgate, but he was about 4 seconds from getting lapped before the pit cycle started. So I could see why.
Yeah, it's right on the fringe. Demerit currently on the pit road right now. Tim Doyle, he's already logged his final stop. So here in a couple moments' time, we'll get a chance to see in the first 15 laps here. Last 15 laps here is Demerit getting ready to roll off a pit road here shortly. Let's see, when does he come off a pit road? We're expecting it to be a sizable gap, but there he goes. Tim Doyle, well, he's already coming off of corner number 1. Where's Joe Branch? He's jumped Christopher Demerit as well. That's your top 4. Tim Holgate currently logs himself in 3rd place. If he can make it to the end, he might just be able to hold off Demerit.
He certainly could, but it's going to be a tricky one to see here. Demerit is in a good position, of course. Not had quite the speed, but we'll see what he can do with it.
Absolutely right here. And right now, I mean, it's basically all strung out at this point. No close battles on the racetrack. About 8 to 9 or so second gaps all up and down your field. So right now, watching the 53 and the 74, this is actually, Hugo proves me wrong. Paul Jennings and Joe Flanagan working themselves through corner number 3. This is really your last close fight on the racetrack, unless, of course, Demerit can get up to Branch, but that would be very difficult, borderline impossible, as working themselves now down into corner number 1. And Joe Flanagan, considering where he's run all race long, he's done a great job to keep Paul Jennings behind him, but Flanagan pushing wide off of 1. Here comes Jennings.
He certainly does. Paul Jennings to the inside now. Don't stop me now, he says, as he comes flying through here on the car of Joe Flanagan, that Rick machine, looking absolutely stunning on the racetrack. But the American Diabetes Association car just managed to get ahead, and he is doing a fantastic job with it. He's definitely one of our big movers of the race. Sees him up to 5th place here. Randy, he's had his wings spread. He's been flying hard.
Yeah, he really has, so it's definitely unfortunate for him, but will he be able to keep up with Mr. Paul Jennings? I have to say, I'm not sure. We know Paul has had a very fast race car, and I mean, look at the way Paul Jennings is already gapping him. I think there's no way Joe Flanagan can keep up here. Nothing against Joe. I don't actually know Joe either way, so I can't say whether or not he's a good buy. He might be a jerk, but assuming he's not, I don't think there's any way he can get to him.
Let's assume he's not. It'll be really cool to assume he's not. Just make the story a bit more fun. I don't really want to cheer on someone who's a jerk, but I don't know. So this is
Bunch of Kyle Busch fans would.
Let's move on from that subject very rapidly for a number of reasons. But anyway, race cars are happening. So we'll have a look through your field, run through that top 10 of cars that are having to race so far as we come into the final 12 laps, Randy. Tim Doyle out front, Joe Branch in 2nd, Holgate he's in 3rd on fuel at the moment. Chris Demerit, he's in 4th. Paul Jennings, 5th place. Joe Flanagan, Bradley Walters, and those are your lead lap cars, top 7. Still in the race, though, Danley, Ench, Nathan Buckbinder, and Tim Miller. They are your top 10 cars, and we only have 10 cars running still, Randy, because Robert Gortz, Andrew Kinsella, Niles Anders, Marco Aurelio Brazil, Michael Peters, and Ryan Eater are out of the race.
Absolutely right. As right now we're on board with the number 53 of Joe Flanagan as he tries to reel into Paul Jennings, and he hasn't let Paul get away, but he hasn't really been able to close up early. That gap gap has just more or less stagnated as they work themselves into corner number 1. And at this point, Rachel, you have to say it's all eyes on Mr. Holgate, because you want to see, I mean, yes, everyone wanted, I think, Holgate in some form to win here. Unless, you know, and if, of course, you're on a different IndyCar team or politics or something else silly. You may not have wanted to.
There's no politics in the IndyCar community.
This is very true. But I think Holgate here, as I'm laughing at what's been said on the radio, as Holgate here, currently running strong. If he can stretch this on fuel and get himself to the end and get himself a podium after that early incident, well done, Holgate. Fair enough.
It would be impressive to see Randy, of course, having Tim Holgate backwards in a catch fence and then to be running 3rd is a spectacular accomplishment, but we'll have to see what he does on fuel for this one. We expected guys to definitely have to come in for a quick splash at some point here. We know they've got one more stop to make. when do you dive? As late as possible, or get it out of the way?
Absolutely right. I think if you're Holgate, if you have to stop, you have to stop. Riding is kind of on the wall at that point. Important to note, though, that Christopher Demerit's been running some pretty slow lap times. He ran a 43.7 and a 43.8. That either Demerit has damage or Demerit has royally messed up his fuel window. He has slowed down hard. He's let Paul Jennings and Joe Flanagan just reel him right back in.
He has. Here comes Paul Jennings on a charge right now. His wings are spread, and wow, it's going to be a difficult one here. But look at how fast he's closing in. Paul Jennings pulls to the inside, no problems there. Demerit, I think, might be trying to stretch this one. I think he's realised very late that there's a fuel strategy at play, and he might not make this one. I think the calculations have been a little bit
He pit on lap
backwards.
135.
He did, so this is why we're confused. Did he not take enough fuel on that stop?
Chris, why must you do this to us?
Oh, this is nowhere near as bad.
And
Randy.
Holgate
Let's not forget
has
as
pit.
Texas, of course. Holgate has pit now. Of course, we've talked about it before. He has thrown his own strategy away. He had the chance to make a one-stop. He didn't want to, so we'll hold that over his head.
Jennings
But,
definitely did. Jennings certainly.
definitely did.
Holgate would have been on the outer fringe, I think.
Oh, absolutely. But let's not forget Texas, of course, where Chris Demerit provided us much entertainment by spinning entering pit road during what was apparently the Spinderella Championships, where everybody decided to enter pit road backwards.
Highlighted the
But that was the
season,
race
really.
where Chris Demerit not only entered pit road backwards, but decided to keep going backwards to his pit box. Then Jay turned into his pit box, crew holding up those 10 out of 10 boards for him. It was just fantastic.
Says right now, Paul Jennings still has his hands full with Mr. Joe Flanagan. Joe has done a great job here to be able to maintain this gap as they work themselves into corner number 1 for the 143rd time. And Joe falls off a little bit. I think this is going to be a tight battle to the end. Paul, I think, has the ultimate pace, but not enough to just run away from Joe like we expected. Joe, I think, if Paul makes maybe a couple little mistakes, if Paul gets caught up in some lap traffic, there's not much of it in front of them. It's just Tim Miller who's currently crossing the start-finish line, so I don't think they'll get to Tim before they get to the finish line. I think Joe could make Paul Jennings' life hard here. Paul's done a good job to get himself up to the podium, like you said, from 15th place on the grid. Will he be able to hold it here for the end?
It's going to be a tricky one, I think. It's going to be really difficult to see what we can find in this one, but at the same time, it's going to be exciting. I mean, these guys are definitely performing a very good race right now. It's been exciting, it's been tactical, but we've had some silly moments, some crazy moments, in fact, in this one. But it's definitely evolving into something that could have been a spectacular fuel battle, an underdog story, but right now it just seems to be the typical kind of end to a Pocono race.
Yeah, it really is, as Joe Flanagan continues setting his sights on Paul Jennings up in front. Currently logging lap number 145. Looking at the gaps for your leaders, 6-second gap from Doyle to Branch. That battle's pretty much done. In order for that to really change, Doyle's going to have to hit a wall. Joe Branch, again, a 14-second gap from second to third. In order for that to happen, Joe Branch is going to have to hit a wall. So, I mean, really is Jennings and Flanagan here to the end. Demerit not far behind, but something tells me that Demerit decided that because he wasn't going down the pit road backwards, he couldn't read the fuel numbers, and because of that, he underfueled the car significantly, and he's basically limping that to the end. Bradley Walters in 6th, 42 seconds off your leader. So, Flanagan trying to work the draft here, and I have to say, looks like Jennings has stretched that gap this time by. Yes, he did. 0.2 of a second to the way of Jennings. 146 laps score complete. 5 laps to go here, Rachel.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now we'll see exactly what will evolve from this one, Randy, but it's been a tricky race, so we talked about it, but at the same time, these guys are coming into the final moments. Tim Doyle looking strong here in the late running. It's been a great performance by him. I think this will definitely be a good win in his calendar. Branch looking strong for that second race. I will have to see. He could be running to the end on fuel for this one.
You're absolutely right. Is right now still Jennings. Well, the last couple laps, Jennings has really pulled away from Flanagan. Have to say that battle's looking pretty much done. 42.5 from Jennings this time by. 42.8 from Flanagan, and in these cars on a track like this, that is significant. Tim Doyle, though, out there running strong. He did run a kind of a slower lap that time with a 42.89. Joe Branch reeling him in by about 5 or 6 tenths, but 4 laps to go, 3 laps to go here at the line. Branch needs a hell of a lot more than that.
He certainly does. He's 5.6 seconds back. It's not really possible for him to get up there and actually get involved in this one. I think it's done realistically. He's looking like a second place car unless he runs out of fuel, which could be possible. I'm not entirely sure. Looking when he last pit, of course, that was 1:32, so he is in the region to run this one to the end, but this could have been so much more exciting. Right now it has spread out considerably. The only fight we had, of course, was Jennings and Flanagan. Flanagan's dropped back. Jennings has pulled away a little bit. So it's opened up there to about a second gap between those two cars, and we'll be running this one to the flag, I think.
Yep, pretty much. 5 miles to go here at Pocono. 5 miles to go in your championship as Tim Doyle crosses the stripe going into one. Lap traffic behind, so don't be fooled thinking that those cars are for position. And actually, are the cars behind for position? Yes, they are. But there is definitely a sizable gap that has to be done. And while Holgate is reeling him in, I don't think he's going to get there close enough as Doyle works himself through to.
Certainly not. Of course, he's a lap down now in 7th place. But Tim Holgate in a good spot. You know, this isn't a bad way to end it. He wanted to win. We thought this was his chance. We thought he had this one on lockdown, Randy. But as it stands, you know, he's had to put up with it. He's not quite been in the right place for this. And he's just going to have to play the piper and handle the fact he didn't win the Triple Crown. But he can console himself with the fact that he is the champion.
White flag is out. Ain't no sound, but the sound of the engines. Machine gun's ready to go as Tim Holgate, or Doyle, rip last lap
Get it
call.
right.
Tim Doyle going into quarter number 2 for the final time of the championship. And you have to say he has this one in the bag going into corner number 2. Oh, so clean. Actually, he got a little loose. Come on now, Tim. You only have half a lap to go. Don't mess it up now. Working through corner number 3 for the final time. And Tim Doyle, as long as he gets it sort of right, I mean, he can hit the wall and finish here at this point, get the win. Tim Doyle will win your last round of your Indy Elite Series. Joe Branch off of turn number 2. Hill could be in second. Paul Jennings, just to really see what the gaps are, he's coming off of 2. But where's Tim Holgate? Tim Holgate, he's already crossed the stripe, I believe. He goes into corner number 1. He's your Indy Elite Series champion, Tim Holgate. Great for him. 2 winners in 1 race, Rachel. Have to say, it was an exciting one. Wish Jennings and Holgate would have risked the fuel though.
Oh, I certainly wish they had. It would have made this a lot more exciting and a potential chance for a 1-2 by 2 guys who might have been out of the running of this one. But as it stands, a great win there by Tim Doyle. Fantastic result for him.
Absolutely right, as right now everyone's working themselves, crossing that start finish line. Couple people I think maybe not quite finished the race just yet. Actually, no, I believe everyone has since crossed the stripe. Tim Holgate going down now into his pit stall. Tim Doyle, he's probably going to come around, do himself some donuts as he works himself through corner number 3. And who's that up there? That's Tim Miller driving by. Everyone giving Doyle the congratulatory rev of an engine. But no, Tim Doyle's actually going to come down the pit road, so no donuts for us today, Rachel. However, it's an entertaining race. Pretty boring towards the end, and definitely some drama towards the start. Go to your results, then we'll hop to an ad, and then we'll do your post-race show here tonight. Tim Doyle coming home with a strong victory here at Pocono. Joe Branch in the 2nd place. Paul Jennings, we think he had the outside shot at a fuel mileage win. Decided he didn't even want to risk it. He comes home in 3rd. Flanagan 4th. Demerit rounding out your top 5. After short filling that car as he currently runs down the pit road backwards. Bradley Walters 6th. Tim Holgate in 7th. Stanley Inch in 8th. 9th and 10th. Bookbinder and Miller. Robert Gortz 42nd. Andrew Kinsella in 12th. Or excuse me, Robert Gortz 11th, 42 laps down. I read the wrong tab. Andrew Kinsella 12th, 105 laps down. Niles Anders, after that questionable decision with what he did with Marco under caution, 13th. Marco 14th. Michael Peters in 15th. We're going to hop away to an advert here very shortly, and then we'll be back with the rest of you guys for your post-race show. Don't go away.
The 2016 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series is all about change. New teams, new drivers, new tracks, even a new logo. And oh yeah, there's a brand new car. After 5 years of competition, we say goodbye to the Williams FW31 and we say hello to the McLaren MP430. But this isn't just a brand new car, it's a whole new ballgame. And with it, we bring new excitement, new strategies, new technology. For example, energy recovery and drag reduction systems. There's a new way of thinking about racing, and for all the drivers participating, it's back to the drawing board, wiping the slate clean in the ever-consuming pursuit of perfection. One little slip-up, one wrong move on track, one poor strategy call, and it's over. That's the difference between coming up short and becoming champion, and being $10,000 richer to boot. So yeah, change is in the air, but we're going to start getting answers on the 27th of February as the 7th year of iRacing World Championship competition kicks off. And you won't miss a thing, with every single race live on iRacingLive, coverage brought to you by RaceSpotTV. So join us fortnightly from 1:30 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live, and post-race show underway. We're going to kick it off initially here. Rachel Whiteford is going to talk to your race winner of Tim Doyle. We're trying to get a hold of Tim Holgate, hoping he can show up, but I think he might be having post-championship celebrations here. And Doyle, well, Rachel's going to talk to you. I don't know why I started talking.
Certainly am, Randy. Thank you very much. Tim Doyle, you paid your dues time after time. You've done your sentence. But this time, you came away with the race win. Fantastic result for you. A victory here at Pocono in the Triple Crown event. It's not winning the Triple Crown overall, but you know what? You stopped Tim Holgate dead in it, and you scored an important victory in the final round. How do you feel?
Yeah, I just want to say I parked it in victory lane. Shout out to Brian Clausen. Yeah, I didn't know going into this race how well we were going to do. I think I ran a different setup from the other guys, and as the race went on, I got suited to the setup, and it worked, better and better for me. And then me and Chris had a really tight race there in between pit stops. We would come out side by side again and battle hard, trying to get that track position. And then as it went on, the other guys started fading more and more during the pit stops. I don't know if they were having issues or what, but it kind of worked out.
Well, it certainly was, of course, and fuel was definitely a major factor in this one. Did you have an eye on the fuel clock in this one? Yeah,
I was doing the calculations in my head. I had to figure out what the fuel mileage was, after the first long run that we had, and I had to calculate how many more stops we had to do if I could short fuel and do it that way. I knew I couldn't go a full tank to make it, so I split it up, and Chris was the first one to do it, and I pitted a lap after him, so he was on the same strategy as me. So it was both on the same strategy, and pretty much everybody went with that, once we got to that point.
A fantastic race from you, and any sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to thank iAdvanced Motorsports, Rick Matek, Mike Peters, Darren Manning for putting this on, Joe Branch. It was a heck of a series, a lot of fun, really good quality racing that we had each race. Vic for doing his job. I want to say a shout out to Foyt Wines, Arizona Sports Shirts, Forum.net, GottaRace.com, and you guys for broadcasting. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks for coming on, Tim. And that was Tim Doyle, of course. Randy, you're a race winner here today in Pocono.
Yeah, great run from Doyle today, and unfortunately, we don't have Tim Holgate here tonight, and of course, coming away with the championship win. Tim, if you watch this back later, if you or any of your teammates are watching this now, congratulations to you on the championship. You really did deserve it. And hopefully we can have a nice quality league next season that we can broadcast some great IndyCar racing, maybe with a little bit less politics. But that's going to do it for us today here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Join us. I'm actually not sure what's going on this week. Hugo hasn't put up the schedule. I know we have the Raven Graphics Contender Series on Wednesday. Tuesday, we won't have NASCAR night. LSR
you know what, Randy? Why don't I do
this
bit? Don't forget, folks, Monday night you can catch us at 8 o'clock GMT for Monday Night Skippies on RaceSpot Primetime Tuesday. We've got some NASCAR racing. Wednesday is the Leopard Electronics Proto GT Series and the Raven Graphics Contender Series. Thursday, there's probably something happening on Thursday. And Friday, there's more IndyCar. So join us for RaceSpotTV, and don't forget the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series is on Saturday.
Yeah, what she said. She's organized. I'm not. Join us all for that. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.